USA YouTubers and, let's be honest, grifters in any fandom would.
So the first thing I'm worried about is that it gives some of these YouTube grifters, these tourists that have been, visiting our fandom just to shit on some of the projects, it adds more fuel to their fire that they're trying to burn about how, American Godzilla sucks or there's only 3 Toho movies worth watching.
There are a lot of grifters around right now, and they do not care about the franchise, no matter what they say.
Grifters.
YouTube grifters, these tourists.
There are a lot of grifters.
Grifters.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, grifters. It's not been too long since I streamed, but I'm happy to be doing it. Had a lot of stuff going on outside of the YouTube space, and then of course G-Fest is gonna be coming up, so I have been working on a lot of content just to at least have something out during that week, because I'll be there from Monday till Monday, so I want to make sure everyone is nice and satisfied with at least some form of content. But yeah, what a wonderful day. Say his words, grifters. 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 Yeah, those bloody grifters. I swear. Bro, the topic I wanted to do here on a participate. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. Honestly, this stream was kind of a spur of the moment kind of stream, because I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to finish a video I was working on or if I could do the stream. And I had some other stuff I was doing earlier today, so I was like, okay, if I have to do that stuff earlier in the day, I might as well just do a stream, because then it feels like it's going to be a little bit more natural to flow into a stream rather than continue to work on a video and feel tired anyway. And I ended up just taking a nap early in the day anyway. So there's that. And then I know I'm probably just going to work on that video and upload it next week, and then do the following stream, the Godzilla pitches. So again, for everyone who's interested in talking about a Godzilla pitch idea they have, whether it's like a story, a TV show, or a movie, that's going to be Thursday the 27th. And that's already, like, you can see that on YouTube if you are interested in joining that. And then I haven't posted this yet, but the Sunday of July, it's the second Sunday of July, which I believe is the 7th. I just want to be definitely positively sure. Yes, the 7th. Well, the first Sunday of July, but technically the second week of July. So the 7th, once I get home from work that day, I will probably be doing the longest stream in history on the channel, because I will stream from whenever I get home till when I have to leave for the airport to go to Chicago for G-Fest. So I'm probably not going to have like a whole bunch of guests on, since that's going to go on for probably a couple of hours. But yeah, so that's going to be super fun to do, and that I'm going to be able to at least sleep on the plane, because sometimes I can sleep on plane, sometimes I can't, or I'll like sleep halfway and I'm like, okay, that's wonderful. And now I'm like groggy and stuff when I get there. But if I do the stream, I'll probably just pass out on the plane, and then I'll be ready for that Monday, because we'll be getting in there. We leave for the airport around 5-ish. Or we leave the airport at 5, and we get there around 10, and then I stay there till G-Fest that weekend. So fun times had by all. But what a wonderful day. But what I'm gonna do is I'll do what I usually do. So I'll give it a few minutes, and then once we hit about 10 minutes, I will start bringing people on if they want to. And if not, it's just going to be a solo affair. But we'll be able to talk about this wonderful, wonderful video. So I'm going to obviously put the link to the Discord in the channels as always, because I always let people who are in the Discords join first if they want to. So there's a link to the Discord if you haven't. Feel free to join. If you want to be a part of these fun shenanigans that we do. And then let me post the invite to the StreamYard in general chat. There we go. Alrighty. My enemies are the silliers. Yeah, because apparently Godzilla it's always been silly, guys. Don't we all know this as true Godzilla fans? There's no greater knowledge than knowing just how truly silly Godzilla is as a franchise. But in the meantime, while I give time for people to come in and join and talk, how have y'all been? Has it anything fun been going on for you guys? Anyone going to G-Fest? Let's hear what's been going on. Bored? Now I feel you on that. I should go to G-Fest, but I'm an East Coast. I'm East Coast too. The one thing I would probably say is that if you are like, regardless of where you are, the thing I can always recommend for people is make sure that you prepare very early in the year. So the fall is around the time when they post tickets and they post about the hotel room opening up for G-Fest. So that's when I always recommend anyone who's interested in going to go around that time. I've been good. I'm going to G-Fest. Are you? Yes, I am going. And actually, what I'll do here is that if you see my little Zogura picture here, I'll be wearing some Zimzilla merch. So just look at my picture here and just look for it on a shirt. And if you see that on a shirt, you'll know the guy attached to it is Zimzilla99. I'm watching this while hunting an Anjanath. I love Anjanath. One of the better designed new gen monsters. Jerry Totus is pretty good too. Although I think that's I'm not as well versed on Monster Hunter lore, but I also like him as a design. I know a lot of people don't like Pescine or Pescine Wyverns, but I just like the Fish Boys. They're pretty cool. And I was about to say Glavenus, but Glavenus is not a new world monster. Screw your Anjanath, very boring. Why is Anjanath boring? Let's hear that. I'm curious. It's either 2-way drive or 2K on plane. Yeah, that's fair. That's the unfortunate thing, is that some of the plane rides are either really, really expensive or like just the drives give me a long way. Of course, I'm not going to G-Fest. I got 5 kids to feed. You don't have kids. What are you talking about? Unless you talk about pets, which in that case, probably. I found it is lame and fight boring. He's like, I mean, the fight's basic, but like I always liked his design. His design was pretty chill. Although, like, if we're just talking about general monsters from the series, probably my favorite designs are Baroth and Glavenus. And we got the sea monsters in the house. How's it going, my good sir?
What a wonderful day!
What a wonderful day! Say his words. You cannot have
his
both.
Words!
You cannot have both.
Yeah. How are we doing, folks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, because I always like pre-watching these videos beforehand, and I'm just like, I'm remembering. I'm like, oh God. Oh no. Lord help me. Lord preserve me. What have I done?
I tried to watch the video that I guess we'll be discussing here. I only got like about 10 minutes into it, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But I was about to say, didn't you do a stream recently? But I think you said that you weren't able to.
Yeah, I was planning on doing one on the 10th, but some things just kind of came up outside of the internet sphere, so I kind of had to address it. But I figured I'd kind of join the stream here when because things seem to be starting to become a little more like a little more of a handle on things,
That's good.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
I always know that, like, because Black does it too, and I think you've done it as well. But yeah, if you need to pull content from this, definitely you could just download the stream and take out some clips and stuff and add it to your channel.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, because I know the big thing about YouTube is always the uploads and stuff. So that's I'm always fine with people doing that.
Yeah.
What's up, Joe Schmo?
What's up?
Domain expansion, benevolent shrine. Music.
Hello, Freshly Madge.
Do you know who else is the honored one? Imaginary technique. Purple.
Yeah.
But it's really funny because since I've been doing these more often, I've essentially almost gotten all the way down to all of the bad video essayist takes now. So I'm like, oh no, I've essentially gotten rid of all the content that I could do by doing multiple videos in one stream.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be people doing bad Godzilla videos, so.
Oh yeah, and there's definitely plenty out there, even before this whole thing about covering bad video SNS, pretty much. So there's plenty of stuff to find, pretty much plenty of treasures, if you will.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of stink. I know definitely I'm probably gonna have to sooner or later, because I know a lot of people would probably want me to do it, is to go over Blue Nova's video on the Heisei Godzilla series.
Blue Nova?
Yeah, one sec. Let me stop sharing.
I am not familiar with that.
Really? You're not familiar with Blue Nova? That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the internet, but I'm not like that.
You're not terminally online like I am.
Maybe not as much, I guess you could say, but
Blue Nova. I think probably a bunch of people here on the channel will know who I'm referring to when I say Blue Nova.
All right.
I'm sorry, Zim. I own GXK Odd 4K and I enjoyed it. No, you're no problem. You're totally, again, you are good to enjoy what you enjoy. And speaking of enjoyers, there is Vic. Actually, this is a new person.
Hey,
I'm familiar with Vic, the G98 enjoyer. I'm not familiar with Vic, the #1 GXK fan. That's a different person. Who are you? How did you get on my stream?
Different skin, same person, I guess.
So what, you stole someone else's skin and wore it now?
That's right.
You just pulled like a John Carpenter.
No.
You just pulled a John Carpenter's thing going on here, just kind of doing some really horrific shit, just copying their DNA.
But for your information, see, it's this video. The Heisei Godzilla films aren't good. That's the one everyone's probably wants to see me cover. That's a big one everyone likes. This one's only 6 minutes, so I probably wouldn't ever go over it. But I know a lot of people have words to say about that Heisei Godzilla video, so I would definitely have to make sure that is I let people know ahead of time that that's something I'm doing stream wise, so as many people who want to join can join.
Yeah. I'd be very curious to hear what that video would have to say about certain Heisei Godzilla films. I mean, I would be shocked if that video were to say oh, but Godzilla versus Space Godzilla or Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, those are the good ones. I'd be shocked if he said that.
Let's go with Hey Zim, I just wanted to join real quick. Say this, it won't be in for the majority of the stream, sadly. But I gotta say, his hands were raging hard on X and a former journo. He's a glowy. I'm not surprised he's like a former journalist. Like, I mean, a lot of his content has like that standard journo kind of feel to them, but that doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah.
But actually, yeah, no, we already hit over the 10 minutes, so we've assembled the band. The Avengers are here, so
Yeah.
we will now begin.
Yeah.
Share screen, and we will streamception ourselves. Yeah, I should if I ever get a soundboard when I get my new PC, I just have to, every time I do that, I have to just go bong. Or probably if I'm using dual monitors, I won't have that issue anymore. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. And audio, keep that kind of there. All right, let me minimize that. And we'll do. He talks a little faster anyway too, so I'm thinking we will do 1.5 times speed. So
Okay.
when we go, we'll do 1.75. So you still have that schizo sounding voice, but it's not super on speed type stuff today.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Hey, you're up. And the Oscar goes to. Here you go. This is it. Godzilla.
After one of the most iconic cinematic franchises of all time, Godzilla. Here's my Oscar. Godzilla Minus One is rightfully being praised as one of the greatest Godzilla films in recent memory, if not ever.
This video standing on this stage seemed out of reach.
With all franchises that last a long time, there's a tendency for new fans enthusiastic about a quality entry in a series to talk down about a franchise's goofier entries. We saw it with James Bond, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, just about every single horror movie franchise with more than 4 films, especially Friday the 13th. But it's especially true for Godzilla, which has multiple entries all coming out in short succession, all celebrating different aspects of Godzilla's legacy. And I mean that fairly recently. 2023 and 2024 have been the years of Godzilla, with some of the best releases we've seen in a very long time. Monarch, the multiple Godzilla shorts we've seen for the Godzilla Fest, Godzilla X Kong, and of course, Godzilla Minus One.
It's time to start my
I love my ads.
While Godzilla Minus One harkens back to the original film's darkness, something both Godzilla 2014 and Shin Godzilla did, the new Godzilla X Kong movie harkens back to the goofier side, the Showa era, the gigantic kaiju brawls, absurd sequences, and imaginative.
He did the thing. He showed Megalon, guys. He did it.
Yeah.
He got the drop kick already. It's only been
Yay! He did it.
Megalon drop kick slide, goofy, silly, meme repeat every time.
Okay, can they just come up with something a little more original? Like, oh, I don't know, maybe just like show the scene from Godzilla versus the Sea Monster where they literally do volleyball with a fucking rock. Come on.
I like you. Like, there's so many others. Like, you could do King Kong versus Godzilla clap. You sometimes see the Godzilla dance, but like it's either always gonna be the drop kick or the Godzilla dance. It's either one of those two. You don't get anything from like Godzilla and Minya from Son of Godzilla. You don't really usually get anything from Hedorah. Gigan doesn't have a whole lot of like super silly moments outside of like the them speaking, and then Mechagodzilla doesn't really either outside of like Godzilla kind of throwing his hand in frustration when he misses. Same thing with Terror Mechagodzilla. You don't get anything silly from Terror Mechagodzilla. And then, of course, sometimes you get the Godzilla body slam from Megaguirus, but outside of that, not really much else. But yeah, 1 minute in, guys, and we already got the Megalon dropkick. You love it. You love to see it.
The gigantic kaiju brawls, absurd sequences, and imaginative fantasy world building that defies all logic, other than the rule of cool. Before we get started, if you like what I do here, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment telling me how you got introduced to Godzilla, what your favorite film is, and what kaiju is your favorite. For me personally, mine is Mothra, but let's look at these iconic kaiju together. He's been around for like, when did that first one come out? 1954. That was 70 years ago. 1954, 2004. Wow. That just occurred to me. This is kind of a 70th anniversary of Godzilla video, I guess.
I don't think that's this is me kind of digging too much into it. I doubt that he genuinely didn't realize that this was Godzilla's 70th anniversary. Everyone was talking about it. He talks about the Godzilla Fest shorts. So I highly highly doubt that he didn't know, and this just sort of feels like, oh hey guys, I didn't realize this. I guess this is a 70th anniversary Godzilla film. Like, no.
No, you can't be this much of a Godzilla fan and somehow by accident not realize that 2024 is the 70-year anniversary of Godzilla. You just don't.
I don't know. 70 years. I mean, that's a big deal. All right. Now, when I grew up, Godzilla was one of those franchises that every kid adored, and myself included. I was introduced to Godzilla back during the Sci-Fi Channel marathons used to run.
Welcome to Godzilla Incorporated. This week, someone else invades my turf.
Where they'd have a bunch of the classic Showa era films running back to back to back. You'd have King Kong Escapes in there too, which was the King Kong kaiju film Toho did after Godzilla versus King Kong, or King Kong versus Godzilla. And they were a lot of fun.
Incorporated on the Sci-Fi Channel.
I think the first Godzilla film I saw was King Kong versus Godzilla, but it might also been Godzilla versus Megalon.
He did it again!
You did it!
What I need to do is that one time I need to like just do a drawing of the Godzilla kick and just have that be a counter on the channel, and just see how many you can count how many times you see the drop kick in a video or see it mentioned across videos that I do. But there we go. We got two. We got two of them in.
Yep.
Which explains why I love Jet Jaguar so much. That's a great kaiju. And we would watch them. Maybe they'd air back to back, and I wouldn't know when each film came out. I wouldn't know chronology. This was back when the internet was like in its infancy. So you got to keep in mind, this was just running on Sci-Fi Channel, and we just watched them as they came out.
Godzilla is approaching. Evacuate immediately.
Sci-Fi Starcon 2001 continues today at 3 p.m. with Godzilla. And they were a lot of fun. I have a lot of fond memories when I was a kid. My grandmother would watch me just have these playing on all the way. I had all those Godzilla toys. I had Mecha Godzilla, I had Mecha King Ghidorah, which I didn't even know existed at the time. I just knew it was a cool looking figure. I had no idea what the context was. None of that. Just cool times. I always associate Godzilla, therefore, with childhood, with the fun of seeing these monsters on screen, more so than the original Godzilla film, which I actually saw not that often as a child. I saw that more as an adult because I think the original Godzilla film's a masterpiece. But when you're watching as a kid, what are you gonna go towards? The slower, more unpleasant, the more serious, dramatic Godzilla film where Godzilla doesn't show up in front of new monsters, or we're gonna watch the film where Godzilla and a giant robot man fight a giant cockroach and a giant chicken with a chainsaw, the buzzsaw for a chest.
It's all gonna depend on the person. I mean, anecdotally, there's one kid I met at my job, and I showed him all the Godzilla stuff we had in the store, and his favorite Godzilla is Shin Godzilla, and I doubt it's in like, I'm not gonna say that he doesn't know, he like probably doesn't understand all of like the intricacies of Japanese politics, but he gravitates towards Shin Godzilla. He just likes Shin Godzilla. And then just because there is a serious Godzilla movie does not mean that a sillier or lighthearted Godzilla movie is going to be more attractive to children. Children are going to gravitate towards many different things for many different reasons. And in a lot of ways, Toho banking on the trends of the Gamera series and trying to appeal too much to kids and continuing to have these diminishing returns could be a reason as to why the franchise dipped so much into like lower budgets and then ultimately had to go away before you got back to 84. But you can see that within all the eras, every time you dip into silliness, the franchise ends and then it always has to reboot with something more serious.
Yeah. I mean, like the only possible slight exception would be like the Heisei era, pretty much, because of like it kind of remains like mostly serious, pretty much to the end.
Yeah.
Even with Space Godzilla being a little more being pretty more lighthearted, let's just say, more what have you. But even then, and you got the Millennium era where it's like. Yeah, like you got films that are kind of like just all over the place in terms of tone, although most of them seem to be taking themselves fairly seriously, except for Final Wars, which is pretty much just like straight up like pretty much an anime on crack, let's just say.
Yeah, but even then I wouldn't call Final Wars silly. I would call Final Wars like stylized or over the top. But like Final Wars takes its universe very seriously. And it doesn't do a whole lot to be like, wow, don't you know how crazy and silly this is?
Yeah.
It's more like, oh, this is really cool. Let's have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean there's like some like winks and nudges pretty much from like, in a lighthearted sense here and there, such as like when the villain's like literally just like throwing a temper tantrum over like his some of his monsters losing, and some winks at the meta pretty much, such as with Zilla and so on. So
yeah.
I mean, I can kind of understand as far as like the perspective of like, oh, which Godzilla are you going to gravitate more towards? Like the darker, serious one, or the one where Godzilla's like fighting, a bunch of monsters? Like just to give him like just a little bit of like, like benefit. I guess you could say kind of a, an olive branch. As a kid, I probably would more likely gravitate towards where Godzilla's fighting another monster, but that doesn't mean that I would just shy away from watching the one where he's like on his own and the film's much more serious. Because I've seen the Raymond Burr, at least the Raymond Burr American cut as a kid at one point in time.
Mm-hmm. But like, even when you think about like the word silly, like just looking up silly on like Google or something, you're gonna have the word like having or lacking having or showing a lack of common sense or judgment, absurd and foolish, with similar words being foolish or stupid. And then absurd, if we want to define that too, would be wildly unreasonable, illogical, or inappropriate. Right. In terms of world building, what the Godzilla movie set out to do is at least consistent with its own world building. May it have like logical holes if we take everything at face value and applied it to the real world? Probably. But right. Based on what the world establishes, they are consistent, and therefore the world building isn't what I would call silly or silly, because I think he says silly, not fantastical. Let's just go back real quick just to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Load faster. Look at that face.
And Shin Godzilla did. The new Godzilla X Kong movie harkens back to the goofier side, the Showa era, the gigantic kaiju brawls, absurd sequences, and imaginative fantasy world building that defies all logic, other than the rule of cool. Before we get started,
okay, so he doesn't say silly right there, but essentially like fantastical and goofy, which is essentially the same thing.
Yeah,
I'd argue not. I would argue not. I think there's sort of a difference in the terms inherently, depending on what you go for.
Goofy and silly?
No, goofy and fantastical.
How would you define the terms then? And also, real quick, we got a super chat, $5 from Black Rooney. If we use the inappropriate definition, making a tragic allegory silly is what I'd call inappropriate, like trivializing the Holocaust. Yeah, like
right.
If you're trying to take a character that is meant to be serious and then diluting it, it could definitely be seen as inappropriate.
Kind of like what Jerry Lewis kind of like inadvertently did with like that film that never was released called The Day the Clown Cried, pretty much. So,
but like, Vic, how would you like find fantastical versus like silly?
Well, I think silly is like a catch-all term for like anything really. Like I would say like Star Wars is fantastical versus something like Spaceballs, which is it takes that and makes it silly. I think there's an inherent difference between what Star Wars is versus what Spaceballs is.
But then, like, would you also say like Berserk is fantastical?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, because then
I'd say like more into a darker tone.
But, yeah, because I would say like fantastical doesn't really have too much weight to it because like it can apply to so many things in speculative fiction. Like fantasy as a part of speculative fiction is gonna just be silly or not silly. Is gonna be fantastical because it is fantasy. Let me pull up this share. Yeah. So fantastical. Yeah, or less commonly fantastical, based on fantasy or not real, conceived or seemingly conceived by unrestrained fancy, so extreme as to challenge belief. And it's like happen in the real world, but then that's why world building is important, because if you can buy into the world that you're creating, then therefore the world is functioning as well as the story can function better because you are buying into it. If you don't buy into the story and you don't buy into the world because you think it's silly or goofy, then any like punch to the story or any resonance, like emotional resonance that you can gain from it, isn't going to hit as hard.
Yeah. And on top of that, Spaceballs is like pretty much functions as far as like a parody goes. It's like if it were to be like used as an example of like a story that takes itself seriously, then that'd be one thing. But the movie's not even trying to take itself seriously, pretty much, and it pretty much goes out of its way to make it clear that it's a parody, like on the level of Monty Python. So it's kind of
I mean, like Monty Python's a good example of that because it is about, or Monty Python and the Holy Grail is about King Arthur, but it's going to be different from an actual like the Green Knight, because they're both stories about King Arthur, but one of them is fantasy but takes itself serious versus another one which is silly but also fantastical. Like I think that when we say these words and then never define them or explain what we mean by this, it doesn't help in terms of discussion. Like even I think those are the Song of Ice and Fire books right there. I think that's Game of Thrones, Storm of Stones, Clash of Kings, Dance with Dragons, Feast for Crows. I think that's all the Game of Thrones books right there. But like that is a fantastical series that has a lot of world building that doesn't make any sense in a realistic quote unquote setting. But because of how it's constructed, we can buy into it based on the information that the story on its own provides us. Whereas with other works where the story provides us with information, it doesn't mesh because that the story falls apart, and that's the issue that we come up with.
But I still don't think that means that you have to inherently connect fantastical with silly.
Yeah, but people use them interchangeably, though. That's the thing. Is that I think in this context here, we don't have to, but in like a lot of the context in these videos that we cover, that usually just so happens to be the case, is that they will combine the two, and silly and fantastical end up meaning what are ostensibly the same things.
Can we agree that that's wrong?
Yeah, we can agree that that's wrong. Which is why I think that's why I'm of the hard stance that like we shouldn't use these terms until there is a wider understanding not to use them, versus we should allow them to be used and then we still keep seeing these issues continue to be raised, because when we see stuff like this happening, it just continues to happen, and I'd rather have a more hardline stance against it, because I think that that'd be more productive than being like, oh, okay, we'll let this go.
Right. I also find it kind of interesting that he uses like footage from Mothra versus Godzilla in coinciding with when he says like for the sake of the rule of cool, when like there's like plenty of other instances of Godzilla media where the rule of cool pretty much sort of thing. It's like, oh, we want this cool thing just because it's cool, we don't really care how we get it. It's like, because you got like Final Wars, it has like quite a few instances where that kind of happens. It's like, why does Gigan like suddenly show up, with like upgraded, buzzsaw chainsaws on his arms out of nowhere when we saw him destroyed? Just because it's cool. Why did Mecha King Ghidorah like show up like so late, like after when it would be kind of convenient for our heroes, because otherwise it would look. Or heck, how is it even possible for Mecha King Ghidorah to even happen, taking the time travel mechanics and all the kind of insanity as far as that movie is concerned going on because it's cool.
Well, I guess like in those cases, that's why I think he probably used that clip, because he said fantastical as well, and it's like. It's a giant moth that's worshipped as a god on an island. That I think that would be a pretty good example of fantastical. But the other thing too is that most of this entire video focuses on the Showa series, so I think that that's why. And then also he talks about capitalism and its relation to Mothra versus Godzilla, and I think that's like another reason why, because he's only pulling from a very select few Godzilla movies instead of really taking the time to analyze the whole franchise, because the PlayStation series and the Millennium series on their own kind of like slap his entire argument out of the air. But I think Where were we? I think we were right about there.
Yeah, right over there.
We'll just go back a few seconds. We'll go right there.
And they were a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun memories when I was a kid. My grandmother would watch me just have these playing on all the way. I had all those Godzilla toys. I had Mecha Godzilla, I had Mecha King Ghidorah, which I didn't even know existed at the time. I just knew it was a cool looking figure. I had no idea what the context was, none of that. Just cool times. I always associate Godzilla, therefore, with childhood, with the fun of seeing these monsters on screen, more so than the original Godzilla film, which I actually saw not that often as a child. I saw that more as an adult, because I think the original Godzilla film's a masterpiece. But when you're watching as a kid,
I think also this just comes from the fact of when he was born, because like a lot of people who are growing up today had the opportunity to see the original Godzilla when they were kids, or just saw a wider range of Godzilla films when they were younger. So they don't have this, like, I guess nostalgia would be the best word for it, for specifically the Showa era, not really knowing too much about the Heisei era, and then kind of hearing about the Millennium series because it was coming out around this time when the internet was more like widespread.
Yeah, like I pretty much only grew up having watched only some Showa films, the '98 film, yeah, I know, and some Millennium films. I had never grown up even watching a single Heisei film, so it wasn't even until like years and years later.
Yeah,
I grew up with like all of the different sets, like I think it's the classic media, the anniversary set, the ones that were like gray and with the little thin cases.
Yeah, the really because, and then obviously there was the TriStar re-releases of a lot of the Showa stuff as well.
Yeah,
because I would say, like, in terms of me growing up, the, like, not including Rodan, the 4 Godzilla movies that I grew up in particular on would have been King of the Monsters, Mothra versus Godzilla, Godzilla's Revenge, and Terra Mecha Godzilla. And I would say that, like, what's weird is that those 4 films aren't necessarily the most silly. Like, I would say out of them all, Godzilla's Revenge is the most silliest. But even then, I would say it's like one of the more thematically rich Godzilla movies if you like take the film on its own terms. So there's that. And then afterwards, more and more of the TriStar releases were coming out. And then, like, I would say the only Godzilla films that I have that were not part of like sets were King Kong versus Godzilla, which I got from, it was that one Godzilla collection. Let me just grab a copy right there that I have on my shelf. Yeah, it was like the Japanese Godzilla collection that I had. And then it wasn't a while later until I got the King Kong versus Godzilla set that came with King Kong Escapes. Then Godzilla 84, which I don't have a actual copy of because someone gave me a bootleg copy of 84 and 85. The Biolante, which had the Miramax, I think, had that set. But there was like I was exposed to like a really wide range of Godzilla movies. Oh, and Destroy All Monsters was another one that I had like that wasn't part of like any sets that I had.
Yeah.
I still have all the cases for them.
I still like
sketched up.
all my DVDs thankfully still work, but like I keep them all displayed there. Like even just recently I got the Media Blasters copy of Dogora, and a few like months earlier I'd gotten the Media Blasters copy of Atragon. So now I was able to get Varan, Matango, Mysterians, Frankenstein, Space Nevo, Latitude Zero, Atragon, and Dogora all through that specific set because those were out of like sets for kaiju movies. Media Blasters really did a good job with the presentation of those DVDs, which depending on when the stream ends, I might watch one of those either today or tomorrow. But let us continue, gentlemen.
Often as a child, I saw that more as an adult because I think the original Godzilla film is a masterpiece. But when you're watching as a kid, what are you gonna go slower or unpleasant, the more serious, dramatic Godzilla film where Godzilla doesn't show up and fight any monsters, or you're gonna watch the film where Godzilla and a giant robot man fight a giant cockroach and a giant chicken with a chainsaw, with a buzzsaw for a chest. It's not a hard decision. Don't take too long to figure it out.
It's also kind of like this isn't him at his most smug, but like him being like, "Oh, it's not a hard decision. You don't need it." Like, no, the question that you're making isn't like a binary that you think it is, and it also is very dependent on the child. So I'm not sure why you're even saying that to begin with.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, that's again going back. Like we, yeah, as a kid, I would rather watch. As a kid, I would more likely watch the movie where Godzilla fights another monster over where Godzilla's like on his own and being, the villain, like in Godzilla just King of the Monsters, the Raymond Burr version. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't watch it either if I was in the mood.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say it was either way for me because as a kid, I grew up watching like monster movies all the time. Like I think my first one was obviously '98, and then Mothra versus Godzilla, and then I think the original King of the Monsters. But aside from that, I would also watch, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, Them, It Came from Beneath the Sea. I watched all those movies as a kid, so it was fairly easy for me to like find the classic, both the classic 54 and the King of the Monsters, fairly interesting and pretty thrilling to watch.
Yeah, like I mean, for myself, like my first Godzilla movie was Godzilla's Revenge, and then I watched King of the Monsters, Mothra, and Terra Mecha Godzilla all around the same time. And then as I kept collecting more, like I remember specifically, I liked watching Godzilla versus Space Godzilla because I liked Godzilla, and then you're telling me that Godzilla fights another Godzilla from space. Plus, the cover art was super cool, and that was a dual set that came with Godzilla versus Destroyer. So
yeah,
like it wasn't like I was watching like or drawn to specifically the Showa era Godzilla movies. It was all Godzilla to me, and I just liked it. And even when I'm dealing with like younger kids who are into Godzilla, and they'll tell me like who their favorite Godzilla is, whether it's like MonsterVerse or Showa Heisei Millennium, they all just like it for their own reasons. And it's not like a simple, we like the sillier, goofier Godzillas like he's implying.
Yeah, like it'd be hard to. I would definitely be curious to imagine, like being in the shoes of my younger self, like watching something like -1. Like, what would I even think of that? Pretty much, it'd be curious for sure. But
Xenodrome asks, do you think Criterion will put the Heisei Millennium era in the collection since they're really hard to find on physical? At the moment, actually, I'm surprised I didn't have this already set up. Criterion announced a Heisei set, but what's interesting is that
it's only from Return of Godzilla to Godzilla and Mothra: The Battle for Earth. So like the first 4. That is curious.
Yeah, where is it? Nope. Actually, this is super appropriate right here. Japanese Godzilla movies according to celebrities and YouTubers. Literally. It's super. Thank you, Rick, for this.
Thank you.
Yeah. But and I'll probably do the Simon Pegg stuff another time.
I watched the Animus's video on him about that.
Yeah, he did post a video. I'll have to watch that. I'll watch that tomorrow because I kind of feel like watching a movie tonight, so I'll watch the Animus's video tomorrow. I'm sorry, C. But yeah, so for your case at Xenodrome, following a 9-year absence from the screen, the King of the Monsters were back with a vengeance in 1984 with Return of Godzilla, in a new era in the romping reptiles mythology. The ferociously entertaining kaiju spectaculars of the 1980s and 90s, which brought back familiar favorites like Mothra, King Ghidorah, and introduced the new adversary and the genetically engineered mutant bylaw to establish Godzilla as a fearsome force. After previous Showa era films, they recast him as benevolent protector while taking the series political commentary and vaunted special effects in bold new directions. So, yeah, at the moment, it's just Return, Biollante, King Ghidorah, and Mothra, which leaves the G-Force trilogy and 98 on its own. I doubt they'd put 98 along with the G-Force trilogy, and I doubt they're gonna do a Criterion set for 98 along with any of these. More than likely, we're gonna see a Heisei era set for these first few Godzilla movies, and then we'll have the rest for the G-Force trilogy as its own set. They'll probably bundle it together, do a full set once they either acquire the rights or figure out what's going on with like TriStar and stuff for those films, and then once that's done, we'll get the Millennium era after that.
Yeah, the 98 film is too readily available to be part of the Criterion collection.
Yeah.
like by TriStar. So, like, that's pretty much their baby, such as it is.
Exactly. Plus, that was the 98 steel box as well that came out while ago. So I
Yeah, they're
doubt
not
that they're
gonna let
gonna.
that go.
Yeah. So for your question, Xenodrome, 84 and Biolante are the most inaccessible, and then King Ghidorah and Mothra are more accessible out of these four. The thing I'm curious about is that if they're doing Return, will we get 84 and 85 as well, or is it just going to be 84? Because I know they did the Japanese and American versions of King Kong versus Godzilla on the Showa set, so it'd be curious to see what happens there.
Yeah. I only own the like Kraken release version of Return of Godzilla, so which I think only has the Japanese cut. Well, I mean, I have yet to have seen the American cut of
And
that.
what's it called? He is Xenodrome right, says it's coming to that Criterion channel. They'd have to release a physical set, but it may be the case too that if they're just showing these ones first, they'll release the other ones later and then just do a big Heisei set. But regardless, it's good that 84 and Biolante actually have a more wide release now. Like,
Yeah.
that's a win regardless.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think a lot of fans now, though, are so caught up in the serious, Oscar-winning kaiju size metaphors that we're forgetting how inherently silly Godzilla is. Even going back to the first film.
Yep, here it is.
It's a guy in a giant rubber. Well, actually, it was some ready-mix cement. Actually, people don't realize this. The original rubber suit was a mix of latex and cement. Looking that around.
That's not technically accurate, but yeah, this is the fundamental problem with this video, and the fundamental problem with almost anyone who talks about Godzilla, because the concept of a giant dinosaur that shoots a breath out of his mouth is a quote-unquote inherently silly concept to begin with. Therefore, Godzilla has always been silly. No, that's stupid. You're stupid. You look stupid. And your entire setup for your bookshelf is stupid. Treat your books with better respect. If we want to be super reductive, then the entire Song of Ice and Fire series is about people fighting over a metal chair and then fighting ice zombies.
Yes, with dragons occasionally.
With dragons. Bro, there's dragons in it.
Yeah.
And bro, you like anime? Dude, that's literally just Chinese Mongolian cartoons. How could it be the idea of anime inherently providing like impactful messages is silly because they're just Chinese and Mongolian cartoons. Come on.
Yeah, like the moment I heard him, like trying to watch this video in preparation for the stream, like the moment he said, like, "Oh, Godzilla's inherently silly because it's just a guy in a dinosaur suit," it's like, okay, you already lost me there. It's like that's just like that. You already just like killed your video, like before it even had a chance to walk.
Like, remember when the mom was telling her kids that they're going to be with their dad soon? I clapped. I laughed. It was funny, guys. Wasn't it so funny? It broke new ground. Like, I would say like this is the one thing for the only thing I'll say to what was just said here.
Degenerates like you belong on a cross.
There you go. That is my thoughts to what was just said there. Yeah, saying the original Godzilla silly is like saying the Blood Meridian is an edgy cowboy story. Or no, it'd be even better. It'd be like, bro, Blood Meridian shouldn't be taken seriously. There's literally a dude there who's giant albino bald, and he's probably like a devil or a demon or something. How can you take a Western seriously if it's got demons in it? And like people who talk about war and are overly evil and just cartoonishly so. Bro, how can you take Blood Meridian seriously? Or since Xenodrome, bro, how can you take Xenomorphs or the Alien series seriously as a horror franchise? It's literally about an alien. We don't know that aliens exist. Plus, the facehugger looks like a vagina. So how can you really think that that's serious, bro? Come on, like it's obviously silly, guys. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you got like the Crow here. It's like, oh, it's just like some guy who died and he came back to life because his girlfriend died too. And so
the Crow, it's a superhero movie with a guy with face paint. How can it be silly and serious? It's silly, bro. It can't be serious at all.
Yeah, no, right?
Black Man for another $2 said you can make cool things make sense. That is true. That was from earlier.
Yes. Yeah, you can, but apparently according to this guy, like Godzilla's just too silly to make sense.
Again, when she said we're gonna be with Daddy soon, I clapped. It broke new ground. It was truly the height of satire, guys.
Yeah, and he just says like, "Oh, the Godzilla is about a guy in a big rubber suit going around smashing cardboard buildings." It's like, no, it's not. It really isn't. Like, Godzilla is about a giant prehistoric creature that's been mutated by nuclear tests and is lashing out against humanity.
But bro,
Like,
it's about a giant dinosaur, bro. It's obviously it's about a giant dinosaur bigger than buildings. The square cube law, bro. Square cube law, guys. Don't you understand? Guys? And to that, I say,
Semper Fi, motherfucker.
yes, we brought it, man.
I got the clip. I'm sorry.
Yes!
I was like, wait, if I'm doing a stream tonight and I've got time to collect clips, I'm buying to collect that clip.
Yes.
Lord of the Rings is an adventure about jewelry. Yeah, it's about little people, somewhat littler people with knife ears, and people throwing a ring into a volcano. Bro, that is so silly.
Like the rubber suit thing. It's even more reductive than the Space Wizards thing because it's just like, oh look, and we're just being meta about it. It's actually just a guy in a rubber suit.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking hell.
Bro, you think the actors almost got hurt when they were in these suits? Bro, they're like rubber suits. How can you get hurt? Rubber's like super soft, bro. Like, dude.
Yeah, no, right?
Like it looks like right here because it's movement. It looks like he's just about to like soy out and be like, bro, don't you understand? It's silly. It's silly.
It's a monster.
Clap.
It's intended for children.
The guy in a giant rubber. Well, actually, it was some ready-mix cement. Actually, people don't realize this. The original rubber suit was a mix of latex and cement. Imagine looking that around. At the end of the day, the original Godzilla is about a guy wearing a suit, walking around, crushing toy buildings and tanks. And despite
oh my god! Oh my god!
Talk about the
Kill me, please.
Is that the man in the suit?
That bro, is that man in the suit?
No,
is that man in the suit? But yeah,
no, John Wick was a man in a suit.
bro, John Wick is about a dude who fights people because they shot his dog, bro. That's like so silly. Like, come on.
No, they just used a baseball bat to his dog. That didn't shoot him.
Dune is about space witches, and space worms and space drugs, bro. How can you take that seriously?
Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy.
Like with various, admittedly very effective analog horror films or shorts on YouTube would like to tell you, it was just that guy in a suit. For most of those old films. Back in the days when Godzilla came on screen, there were 3 ways to effectively bring monsters to life: rubber suits, puppetry, or stop motion. To this day, I'm unsure which was the more effective means of monster creation. I mean, personally, I'm always drawn to the artistry of stop motion. I look at the original King Kong or Mighty Joe Young or the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and I see some of those beautiful monster effects of all time.
The Beast from 20,000.
Those are just guys playing with toys, bro.
Yes, yes, you're playing with toys, bro. Yo, like he says later on in the video that like the Showa Godzilla movies are just like 2 kids pushing toys together. That is literally what stop motion is.
And while puppets could be used, I don't think right till Zimcast came along. We got stuff like Star Wars, The Dark Crystal, etc. So rubber suits, they were very goofy, but they were also
dude, like the puppets, you know? Yeah, oh yeah, puppets, like, I mean, Yoda, that's just literally just some, like, a little prop that a guy has a hand up his ass, to just manipulate. Like, it's like, just the puppet.
Like, when I think about it,
Star Wars,
when I, like, right here, you'll see a second. When I see this, I immediately just think of Muppets. Like, they're both, like, silly puppet suit things, so there's, like, truly no difference. They're just...
God, it's so reductive.
They were very goofy, but they were also cost-effective and very good at helping to lend to the scale of kaiju action. Another thing, Godzilla as an icon, that didn't happen overnight. The original Godzilla film was a hit, undeniably so, but The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms also had come out a couple years prior.
Buried somewhere under the polar ice cap.
It was a year apart. Not a couple. It was a year apart.
Oh my god.
The awesome creatures. A nuclear explosion could free one from his icy tomb.
When Godzilla Raids Again came out in America, it was named Gigantus, the Fire Monster, because American producer Paul Schreibman thought audiences might be confused, since the previous film ended with Godzilla being destroyed
by
the oxygen Destroyer.
No, what? No. I pulled this up for this exact reason. At least like most sources cite, where was it? Yeah, it changed. He changed Godzilla's name to Gigants to give the audience the impression that they were seeing a new monster, believing that an original film was still better than a sequel. And it seemed to regret that decision. Yeah, so it had nothing to do with like audiences being confused about Godzilla dying. Plus, they also talk about Godzilla dying in the movie.
Yes, exactly.
They just call it a gigantic monster of the Anguirus family and talk about like that one dying, and there being another one. Like, no, how do you do this? How? Xenodrome Hamlet spawned an emo edgelord who has mommy issues. Yeah, bro, how can you take Shakespeare seriously? Like, bro, Hamlet, he talks to a skull and says, "Poor young."
Romeo and Juliet. Oh, it's just like a couple teenagers who just want to have sex. They have a
clearly
fling,
a teen romance. How can you think Romeo and Juliet's profound, bro?
Yeah.
Wasn't this the same guy who was also like, yo, YouTube critics just say that like a thing is about like a guy doing stuff? Like he's essentially doing what he's accusing every single YouTube critic of doing in like his last video.
I'm sorry, like what's the description of like just people doing stuff? You could just describe that with any film. It's just like
literally, yeah.
It's like Gone with the Wind. Oh, just people doing stuff. Or Wizard of Oz. It's just Dorothy doing stuff.
How can you take Avatar seriously? It's literally set on an alien planet, all done in CGI. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah, with blue cat people just doing stuff.
Exactly.
For no reason.
I think he overestimated how many people would remember Godzilla was killed by the Oxygen Destroyer.
Wait.
And Godzilla Rage Again, how many people would remember since the previous film ended with Godzilla being destroyed by the Oxygen Destroyer. I think he overestimated how many people would remember Godzilla was killed by the Oxygen Destroyer.
It's in the movie! It's literally in! It is in this movie!
And Godzilla Rage Again is fascinating because it's the middle point between the formula that we would see in the Showa era and the darkness of the first film. I don't think it gets the best of either. I think Anguirus is an interesting ally for Godzilla, but not as interesting to watch Godzilla fight.
Why?
But it did set the tone. You know, Godzilla comes back.
The thing is that like Godzilla Rage Again is ironically one of my favorite Godzilla movies, but like, yeah, the first Godzilla movie that has Godzilla fighting another monster is still rather serious. The only reason why the film falters so much is because of how much of a how quick of a turnaround that was from 54 to 55. And you also didn't have the same group of people working on the film. So, like, Hayama does what he can with the story. Oda does what he can with the, like, film itself. And then Tsuburaya was kind of enjoying himself and then also seeing what he could do in terms of experimenting with these techniques. And that's why you get like the super fast sped up fight between Anguirus and Godzilla. Like, I'm curious what people would think of Godzilla Raids Again if the fight was closer to what was originally intended instead of the super frantic fight that we actually see in the movie. Because I think people would probably like it more because then their thought isn't about, oh yeah, it has that really weird fight scene in it with Godzilla and Anguirus, and it's super sped up and silly.
Yeah, like I would admit, like as far as even though my overall perspective on Godzilla Raids Again is overall positive, but I will say that the kaiju fights, do kind of like, it's not that they're badly done, really. Once it's just that I definitely think the sped up thing was like a bit misguided because it kind of loses the sense of scale that these are supposed to be like two big monsters like fighting each other, in a big city.
No, sea monster. You see, it's from the kaiju's perspective. Okay? They're treating them as characters now.
F29 says, any good argument for the Three Stooges setting off the climax and Raids Again? So here's the thing. In the book, they explain that the only reason why those prisoners are there is because they're evacuating the city. That also means they also state that they're evacuating prisons as well. And because of the commotion going on is why the prisoners decide to escape during this moment. And that's explained in the book, whereas in the movie, they just cut to that scene. And it honestly, the film could have done with having that scene from the book be present because it would have added more context to those guys being there in the first place. So it is far more out of left field in the movie versus in the book. And then The inspector says, off topic, but has anyone ever watched Dead Sounds Soria? Dead Sounds is
That's
the same guy who did the Dinosauria series?
yeah.
Yeah, is it called Soria Dinosauria? I thought it was Dinosauria. Or is he talking about Saurian? Did you say? No, he said Soria.
I think that's the new series he's doing with the dinosaur people.
Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, I thought it was Saurian, but no, it is Soria. I'm thinking of Soria in the game. Yeah, I have seen Soria. I do like it. Kindred of the Tusk for Life. For anyone who is familiar with the series, I'm really excited for whenever that fourth short comes out. Yeah, that context would help a lot. You're gonna have to make an unbiased praise for it again because I do not see anything you could praise from it. I'll have to. I will have to. And it's probably gonna specifically be the Japanese version, even though I like throwing on the Gigantus version too from time to time. But yeah, that I'll add that to the ever-growing list of video ideas.
Buildings get crushed. Nebulous ending. The monster's beaten. Godzilla either walks away or is temporarily imprisoned for a time being, what have you. But the original King Kong versus Godzilla was in a lot of ways the start of Godzilla movies feeling like a WWE ticket match.
How do you like your monsters? Huge, warm-blooded, and fun? King Kong? Or ancient, destructive, and scaly?
Godzilla! Right down to having to get through a boring human story to get to the action.
The combination. Look at them go. Is explosive.
And even Godzilla fans can tell you that
it's the most of the human stories gutted in the American version versus the 62 original, which is more specifically talking about like the problem with commercialization. I think he also mentions it in the video too. So it's not really that boring if it like helps with the plot of the movie. And there are interesting human points in that movie. And not to mention Honda thought the idea of the monsters fighting was silly to begin with, so making it more of a direct kind of comedy satire was the point versus Raids Again or even Godzilla versus Mothra.
Very few Godzilla movies have a compelling human narrative. That's something that a lot of the new and even Godzilla fans can tell you, that very few Godzilla movies have a compelling human narrative.
Yep, that's a problem in the franchise. I will say that completely. But let's go through the list, and I will be as uncharitable as possible to these movies. But Godzilla 54, Mothra versus Godzilla, Invasion of Astro Monster, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, Son of Godzilla, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, Terror Mechagodzilla, Biollante, Mothra or Battle for Earth, Mechagodzilla, Destroya, 2000. I would say no to Megaguirus, GMK, the Kiri Duology, 2014 Shin -1, and even as bad as like they are for many reasons, the anime trilogy still has a pretty good human plot.
Yeah.
Like, do not be like most Godzilla fans can tell you. Do not speak for us. You don't speak for me.
Yeah, this dude doesn't speak for me either.
So films have worked with or against, and it depends on the effectiveness of the film to determine how interesting the human story is. Of the early Showa era films, I think the one that really got the human narrative, aside from the original film, is Mothra versus Godzilla. Not to confuse with Godzilla versus Mothra, which is the 1992 film, not the 1964 film. And both are peak. Both are peak Godzilla, in my opinion. Whenever Mothra comes on, you know you get a good story.
But wait, I thought they didn't have compelling human stories.
Yeah, I know, right? Weird. Also, I think it's kind of interesting that he pretty much says like, "Oh, those two Mothra and Godzilla movies, those are peak." It's like, I mean, the '64 film, yeah, that one's pretty damn good. The '90s Heisei version, yeah.
I know there are people who do like it, but like, it's interesting that he says that. But I think it's just because he's a Mothra fan.
I will say I don't think it's like as broken of a movie as Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, but there's definitely parts of that movie that are pretty tismy in the plot side of things. It's really the action that kind of makes tips it into like sort of like, okay, fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anytime Godzilla is on screen with Mothra, the film is elevated, and I think that's due to Mothra's inherent connection to humanity and human culture. Because of Mothra's ties...
You mean world building?
...to being worshipped as a goddess, the island culture from which she hails from, that inherently brings humanity into the core conflict of the narrative, rather than makes them something that we have to move past to get to the kaiju.
again, examples like this is only the fourth Godzilla movie. Do you want to like show examples of what was going on with the last three movies and how Mothra versus Godzilla did it better than those?
It is part of the kaiju experience. Mothra's eggs wash up on shore in that first film, and people have a mix of reactions. Now, this is also a sequel, we have to keep in mind, to the film Mothra, so audiences in Japan already knew who Mothra was. Now, the eggs wash up, and businessmen exploit the eggs for an exhibit, as well as the two twin fairies who emerge as Mothra's protector. And there's a lot discussed here about how capitalism exploits both.
He said the capitalism, guys. It's totally about capitalism. It's not about like greed specifically, but no. It's definitely a condemnation of the inherent qualities of the capitalist system.
The wonders and horrors of nature. With the television studio subplot of the film, but I think that Mothra versus Godzilla really hits the nail harder because it shows how people are exploited by businesses and their property and their territory and the cost of lives. Whereas King Kong versus Godzilla is more about filming spectacle. This is more about humanity taking hold of
go back.
And versus Godzilla really hits the nail harder because King Kong Godzilla does too with the television studio subplot of the film, but I think that Mothra versus Godzilla really hits the nail harder because it shows how people are exploited by businesses and their property and their territory and the cost of lives. Whereas King Kong versus Godzilla is more about filming spectacle. This is more about humanity taking hold of people.
I think that the only reason why he's praising Mothra versus Godzilla more outside of being a Mothra fan is because there's more instances of exploitation in Mothra versus Godzilla that he could directly say are condemnations of capitalism versus King Kong versus Godzilla. I think that's the only reason why he's saying that here, because it has nothing to do with like capitalism explicitly as a system, and it has everything to do with greed that can be a product of capitalism, but is not just an inherent quality of it.
Right.
I think it's one of the last really deep plots that Godzilla films had before diving into Showa era silliness.
Wait.
Taking hold of society. I think it's one of the last really deep plots that Godzilla films had before diving into Showa era silliness.
There are 3 other eras left, bro. Like, I understand that we go into Showa era silliness, but there's still other good movies.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Godzilla versus Mothra. One where a moth and a giant radioactive reptile fight, and another where her 2 offspring come back for revenge. It's great. It's fantastic. Even in the Heisei era, which is the era of Godzilla films after the initial show. So the way the films work is the Showa era, which is, from 1954 to the mid-70s, where it's from Godzilla, the original, to, I think, one of the Mechagodzilla films, the second one.
That's not even
cut the malarkey. We're facing it.
We've cut the malarkey, Sleepy Joe. I don't care. It's not even the right Mechagodzilla movie.
No, it's not.
You could have just done clips from Terra Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, I will not stand for the disrespect that Terra Mechagodzilla endures to this day. I will never understand why that keeps happening.
And the Heisei era came around, which was from the mid-80s to the mid-90s. That's a stretch of like a film every year, and they played Godzilla more seriously, though still having some of the action from the original series. It's all one big continuity.
So wait.
Films east to the mid-90s, the Godzilla film, the second one. And the Heisei era came around, which was from the mid-80s to the mid-90s. That's a stretch of like a film every year, and they played
a film every year. You mean like kind of like the Showa series that they also did too? Okay.
Godzilla more seriously, though still having some of the action from the original series. It's all one big continuity. The films feed into the other. It's a good, solid run. Then there's the Millennium era, which
going back.
It's all one big continuity. Right. It's from the mid-80s to the mid-90s. That's a stretch of like a film every year, and they played Godzilla more seriously, though still having some of the action from the original series. It's all one big continuity.
So they played Godzilla more seriously, and guess which Godzilla kind of was the Godzilla for like years, even when a new franchise like emerged and all of that. Like, what Godzilla like was the poster Godzilla? It was the Heisei series, and it just so happens to be the era that pretty much took Godzilla seriously for its entire run.
Yeah.
Feed into the other. Yep. Solid fun. Then there's the Millennium era, which is kind of a weird fragmented era of Godzilla films. Each film kind of stands alone, except for a couple of the films which reference the first film, and there's a couple films here and there that like it's nebulous. Is what I'm getting at.
How's it nebulous? What? What are you talking?
God.
There are only 4. No, not 4. There's only 6 films in that era.
Yeah.
Outside of God of Wars, all of them reference the original. Only 2 of them are sequels, and one of them has one of the best human plots of the franchise that you're not going to talk about at all. How is it nebulous?
That is baffling.
And it's also one that takes Godzilla seriously, but as spectacle. What are you doing?
I am perplexed by this. Like, man, like, I don't even. GMK, dude. GMK. That's all I got to say.
It's Mechagodzilla.
Godzilla gets Mechagodzilla. Yeah.
People say like Tokusatsu isn't that good. Again, the Kiryu Duality and GMK. That's like half. If we're gonna say like, and he mentions Final War, so he knows about the Millennium Era. But like, if half of that era is pretty good, if not some of the best in terms of human stories, how are you gonna like just push it aside like that? Like, bro.
Yeah. Look, I know Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is shit, but dang, dude, don't just ignore the entire era.
Like, it's got some flaws to it, but it's not like awful. Like the the only reason like that this video makes sense is Godzilla has always been silly, and that's okay. Is if like your entire focus is specifically on the late Showa era.
Yeah. It's.
He also skipped 98 Omni viewers in the chat too. Yeah, I think like here's the thing: 98 only exists if you are a huge fan of it and you're here to specifically defend it, or if you want to specifically talk about how bad 98 is as like a joke to appease Godzilla fans. You don't get one, it's one or the other. You don't get really anything else in between, really.
Right.
Godzilla film. Each film kind of stands alone except for a couple of the films which reference the first film, and there's a couple of films here and there that like it's nebulous is what I'm getting at. And then there's the Reisei era, which is what we're in currently.
The Reisei era.
Come on, dude.
No, we all know the Godzilla. Like we'll do it here. The Godzilla eras. There is the Showa era.
Yes.
There is the Heisei era, or if you want to be like, some people be like the Heisei era. And there is the Millennium era.
Millennium Falcon era.
The Millennium Falcon era. And then you have the Reisei era.
Reiwa, dude.
Or Reiwa or Reiwa.
Reiwa, yeah, just around it. Reisei, what the? Dude, Reisei, oh my god. Research, dude. Research, redraft. It's really Google. It's like, especially if you're referencing -1, it's pretty simple. Not that difficult. We all use it.
Yeah, everyone in the chat, give me how you want to spell the Reisei era. Let me know. I'm curious to see what everyone's thoughts are.
Good.
We'll do one more. We'll listen to it one more time.
With the films which reference the first film, and there's a couple films here and there that like it's nebulous is what I'm getting at. And then there's the Reisei era, which is what we're in currently, which is first film. It's nebulous is what I'm getting at. And then there's the Reisei era, which is what we're in currently, which is Shin Godzilla, the Godzilla anime, and of course the legendary film series. But Heisei is pretty beloved among fans for this run of serious Godzilla narrative, but they're of course very silly as well.
How? You want to define that with your smug smirk there? I love the fact that I got that perfect pause there, and he just cuts to just not even explaining himself in a 35-minute video.
And for this run of serious Godzilla narrative, but they're of course very silly as well. While things were getting more serious and more dramatic and playing Godzilla for horror rather than just spectacle or fun, the films never forgot the core appeal of the Godzilla franchise, the monsters. A lot of fans don't have fond memories, though, of 1985's The Return of Godzilla, the spark of the Heisei saga.
Damn.
Who are you referring to that doesn't have fond memories of Godzilla 84? Like, I understand people like aren't always the biggest fans of it, but when you talking about people who don't have fond memories of it, like who?
I
am now an owl now, apparently.
Yeah, dang. Like, who doesn't even have fond memories of the American cut of the film? Like, I don't even. This is. Wow. God. I think this is the point where this dude really just completely lost me. And I'm just like, I got better things to do with my time right now. I'll catch the rest of this on the stream.
Who? I don't understand.
Later entries would. Godzilla is the solo monster, comes back, destroys stuff. The American release of The Return of Godzilla even brought Raymond Burr back as his character, Steve Martin. Yes, the character was named Steve Martin. Let's move on. When you talk about Heisei era with fans, American release of Return of Godzilla even brought Raymond Burr back, Steve Martin. Yes, the character was named Steve Martin. Let's move on.
No. Yes, we understand the character.
Yeah.
I understand it's about the comedian named Steve Martin. Just
yeah. Like James Rolfe.
Semper Fi, motherfucker.
It's like, again, James Rolfe already pointed this out, like the fact that they couldn't even call him fully by his full name in Godzilla 85. They had to call him Mr. Martin because Steve Martin was getting big and popular back in the day. I mean, we've been over this, guys, or this dude.
Yeah. No, like, I don't understand. Vic, can you explain this to me?
I wish I could.
Maybe he's trying to explain it for the normies.
No, because not even the normies talk about 84. Like, they're like, what does like a Godzilla movie in the 80s? What? And like, it's very, very few people talk about 84 like at all. Like, again, this is every time he says something new. This is what I think. This is me. This is my head every time he says something new.
Oh shit! Here we go again. Worst place in the world. Rolling Heights baller.
Literally, it's all.
If anything, it might be just to win brownie points for the community. Just to be like, hey, I know this trivia. I know I'm a Godzilla fan. I know the trivia. You know, just to win brownie points.
Yeah.
You know,
it's all like, hey, I've exposed myself to Godzilla before. You know, I'm a tourist, but now I know everything about Godzilla just because I did a tour with Godzilla.
I watched those analysis videos.
Bro, I mean, you know, like,
I watched
the guy's name is Steve Martin. His name is Steve Martin, guys. Didn't you know that?
Did you? I watched Cinemassacre's Godzilla-thon, so now I'm an expert.
Wipe that disgusting grin off your face.
Sir, yes, sir.
One any fucking time, sweetheart.
Sir, I'm trying, sir.
Private Pile, I'm gonna give you 3 seconds. Exactly 3 fucking seconds to wipe that stupid-looking grin off your face, or I will gouge out your eyeballs and skull fuck you. 1.
That is me at this moment right now.
I was not prepared for that. Oh God, those
guy had the Wikipedia page for Godzilla open as he's filming. I mean, his eyes are darting around a lot. I would not be surprised.
I don't think Dr. Skipper even used Wikipedia. Pretty much, he was like, I think even Dr.
Here's
Skipper.
The thing: you can say what you want about that video. At least it had some interesting editing. It may not be your cup of tea. That is fine. At least we had that.
Yeah, Dr. Skipper actually had. Dr. Skipper had production at least in his video, pretty much. Like, you know, even as frenetic as it was at least something. Like, there was some flair to it. It had flair to it. This reminds me more of like the guy talking about how Japan was responsible for nuclear tests in the original Japanese cut.
We were all fake fans that day. He actually responded to that stream we did.
Oh.
No,
what did he say?
He took it like a sport. I can either pull it up on stream or I can just pull it up later. But yeah, no, he was a really good sport about it actually. So I respect him for that.
Oh, nice.
Actually, what I can go do is that in the meantime, let me just try to find that stream again.
Yeah.
Where was it? Yep. Yeah, he said, thanks for watching my video. Though I think some of your points don't really matter in the context of what I was trying to accomplish in my video, I do think there was definitely some valuable criticism that I will pay attention to when I make videos in the future. Specifically, you were right to point out that it wasn't Japanese testing, but American testing that created Godzilla. I knew the Japanese weren't actually testing nukes in reality, but I thought that the movie implied that they were, which in hindsight was just an assumption that I made and ran with it. That was my mistake, and I own it. Another mistake I made that I've been beating myself up for the last 3 years since I published my video, in which you thankfully did not point out in your critique, was that I warned about spoilers for a movie that was over 70 years old and Godzilla wasn't 70 years old yet. Thankfully, next year, that part of my video will be accurate, finally. Overall, I think a lot of the problems you have with my video stem from the fact that I kind of rushed it between school semesters, and I end up spending more time trying to figure out how my editing software worked and actually refining my script. I have some non-Godzilla content in the pipeline right now that I'm putting more time into, and I do have some Godzilla-related content I'd like to make in the future. Hopefully, my videos will be a bit harder to criticize. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool, nice, awesome, dude. And yeah, if you're happening to watch this, sorry I pretty much said for the one moment where I said "fuck that guy" in reference to you. So sorry about that.
No, I
yeah.
the fact that he owned it, and yeah, he did a really good on job on this. And then there was like another guy who literally, it was like it was a 98 video. The dude literally turned off his comments.
Oh yeah, is it Tristan or?
Yeah, it's Tristan's.
Yep. Oh no. Oh.
I don't think he's done any content related to Godzilla since, but like, bro just went, nope, comments off. I will hear no criticism against me.
I will not hear any criticism.
Mad.
No, 98 is a masterpiece. Zilla is more powerful than Godzilla -1 because he can run. Okay. Yeah, that I don't even, all right. Back to this.
Bro was like, the man was like, yo, Godzilla got hurt by those 13mm guns when that wasn't even the case. Like, bro,
and he
actively lied in his
He also lied when he said that -1 died, even though if you've seen the movie, even though he had to have seen the movie. He had to have known what was going on in that movie. How could he possibly even come to the conclusion that -1 Goji dies at the end of -1 when there's literally the final shot of the movie is him whatever hunk of flesh that was left of him regenerating, technically not dead.
No, it's crazy. Like
it is. It is absolutely nuts.
He was I just love the fact that he was so angry about that. And he actually completely turned off his comments.
Yeah.
I really don't like this man. I do not like him, Zim. I am. Would you like him on a boat? Would you like him with a goat?
What?
That's pure. That's like, bro. Cat in the Hat. Truly. That's
what's going on with him and a goat. I don't want to. What? I don't want to know what he's gonna do with a goat. I don't.
It's like Tristan something. It was one of the streams we did a while ago.
Tristan channel, I think.
Yeah, but it's really funny that he completely turned off his comments.
Yeah, I mean, dude, yeah, it's like, dude, come on. Like, you could have just at least, surely you could at least, accept the bare, objective minimum of, facts.
But, dude, he's right. He's totally right. He is the channel of truth.
He's the channel of truth that turns a 98.
I think he dethrones Vic as the G98 defender. Vic, you're gonna have to fight him for your title back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Vic, you're gonna have to.
You're now GXK's #1 fan, so
you're the GXK fan. Yeah, you're the big GXK defender. So
yeah.
So maybe Tristan should be G98 defender now. Maybe.
No.
He went to Vic's house one day and he was like, "Look at me. I am the G98 defender now." Let us keep going, gentlemen.
Yes, please.
You talk about Heisei with fans, they're going to talk about films like Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, Godzilla vs. Mothra, or if they have taste, Biolante's soul outing. But the first film feels hollow because it's just recreating the first Godzilla film, the first one from 1954.
Oh, God.
Wait, one sec.
Recreating the first Godzilla film.
Yeah.
Sure. Meanwhile, it's literally talking about the Cold War, and there's a nuke.
Where's the Oxygen Destroyer? Where's the Sarazawa? If you're trying to recreate it, honestly, you probably would have had more people liking the film if it was just a recreation of the first film. but it's not in so
It
many ways.
is not. Yeah, it is not a hollow recreation of the original. You know, it's not like Terminator Dark Fate, you know, being a necromancer of Terminators 1 and 2, or The Force Awakens rehashing A New Hope, you know, without any like logical consistency to pick up on from the Return of the Jedi. It's not those things. If anything, it's quite the opposite of those things. It's, if anything, if you were to consider it as that, it's more like closer along the lines of Top Gun Maverick, where it's like, okay, this is how you do a legacy sequel or requel right.
I think it's because it lacked a real allegorical component to it. Godzilla walks through Japan.
What?
What?
What? You're telling me that this film about that has explicitly the U.S. and the Soviet Union involved, has nuclear weapons, and talks about Japan standing between two superpowers and tell them not to use nukes on their country, doesn't have any what? What?
Okay, so what is he trying to say here?
Who?
Okay, can you explain to me what this guy just said here? Because apparently Zim's having a mental breakdown.
The first Godzilla film, the first one from 1954. I think it's because it lacked a real allegorical component to it. Godzilla walks through Japan, destroys things, but it doesn't mean as much as, say, Shin Godzilla does when dealing with the fallout of the 2011 tsunami.
No.
Yeah, I think it probably has something to do with like anytime any movie or any piece of media tackles a topic that people have a specific like opinion on, and if it doesn't tackle it in the way they want them to, they'll usually be like, it doesn't have a really strong allegorical component. I probably could bet money that he has some strong feelings about the Cold War, and as a result, I can bet money that how this film handles the Cold War angle is not to his liking, so therefore it doesn't have a strong allegorical component. That's my opinion. I'm saying in my opinion because I don't have any facts to back up, but that's what it feels like.
So basically, so what you're saying is because he can't see through his bias, he doesn't recognize the allegories in the film as much as he would other films. Is that what I'm getting at? Like he thinks that the film is lacking in allegorical meaning or context just because he has a personal POV.
I guess, like, because it just how he frames that as having no allegorical weight to it is.
Yeah, but Shin Godzilla does apparently to him. It's like
because it talks about government being bad and stuff, but like,
yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. Return of Godzilla bad because no allegory. No, it's not true.
I mean, heck, I don't like Shin Godzilla, but I still recognize that. I don't like the allegory, but still, yeah.
Shin Godzilla does fall out of the 2011 tsunami, nor does it have as much to do with the meaning that Godzilla Minus One has when focusing back on the Japanese people uniting.
Yeah, because those two films are about those things. It has stuff to do with Godzilla appearing in the political environment of its time, the Cold War, that you ignore completely.
It of depth to the Return of Godzilla, I think, lends it to being somewhat forgotten as an entry.
You know, the reason why it was completely forgotten as an entry because it was super inaccessible to find.
But ultimately, the core appeal for a while for Godzilla fans was seeing Godzilla fight other monsters. Consider this. When Godzilla decided to wrap up the Millennium Era, they went out with a bang, Godzilla Final Wars. A tribute to what the fans wanted, what they believed the fans wanted at the time. And it's a movie that's purely just Godzilla brawling with every single kaiju they can squeeze into this runtime. Even knocking the Americans' remake Zilla down in a curb stomp battle.
He did the thing!
He did it! Yeah!
Okay. There we go! But also,
add that to check that off the list.
You know, there's another reason why like they had this big monster brawl. It wasn't just because they were like, this is what the fans want. It's also because it was the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
It's nonstop excitement. Even the human narrative gives way to absurd action.
She's killing Jedi.
No! I do not care about your fan fiction. No. Get that off my screen.
Apparently it picks up at episode 3. No, I'm just kidding. Apparently it doesn't. It only gets worse.
and it all goes downhill.
Well, it never went uphill.
Gives way to absurd action. But there's a reason why Final Wars isn't a fan favorite, though it has fan favorite moments. I think it's because Godzilla Final Wars gives fans too much of what they want.
What?
And because of that, it has fan favorite moments. But there's a reason why Final Wars isn't a fan favorite.
What? I can name a bunch of people who say Final Wars is like their favorite Godzilla film.
Yeah.
Like, where are you getting these proclamations from?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when Final Wars was a favorite of mine, pretty much, and to a certain degree, there's aspects about it that I pretty much would make me rather watch it over a good number of Godzilla movies, mainly because of the action. But
Final Wars
Yeah,
is
like
my
what?
top 10, definitely.
Yeah, I would say it's in my top 10 too. Definitely.
I wouldn't say top 10, but I would say, as far as personal favorites, I don't even know if I'd even put it in top 10, but at least now, after like a recent rewatch of it. But I still have a lot of fondness of it,
Mm-hmm.
Though it has fan favorite moments. I think it's because Godzilla Final Wars gives fans too much of what they want. And because of that, it becomes a little mind-numbing at times.
What?
The fact that Godzilla plows through everyone. Like there's that scene where he's fighting King Caesar and Gogan, and he's just plowing through them like a WWE match. And it's not as fun as watching Godzilla struggle a little bit. It has to be a little of a back and forth. Godzilla's too OP in Final Wars, I think. Even though you get a lot of fan service stuff in there, it's so much action your brain kind of melts along the way. I think Godzilla's reappraisal.
Again, what? Okay.
I mean, you want to slow it down just a little bit, or
No, it's just like there's nothing to be said here. Like he's just making a proclamation with like no evidence, and it's off the basis that he thinks that Final Wars isn't a fan favorite. With a lot of people
Godzilla too OP, basically what he said.
Oh, yeah,
but
or
like,
the fact that it gives
Godzilla
too much of what people want, which is
yeah,
fan
no one
service.
ever said that. That's not what people have ever said about that movie.
No.
Wait, did he watch my video and just repeat it? I wouldn't be surprised if he just looked at a bunch of popular Godzilla video essays and then just came to like his quote unquote own conclusions.
I wouldn't be surprised if this guy was literally AI.
So much action your brain kind of melts along the way. I think Godzilla's reappraisal as a solo monster that deserves respect from Western fans came with the legendary series, but Hideaki Anno's Shin Godzilla truly is what reminded audiences that Godzilla can be frightening. He can be horrific. But even then, there's a Universal Studios ride where Godzilla fights the Evangelions. Like, yeah, that exists. It's a cool thing. And then they fight King Ghidorah at the end. It's lovely. I love it.
Yeah, it's almost like they take that ride seriously and they don't try to like be like, oh, isn't it so goofy and weird that Godzilla's here? They're like, oh wow, Godzilla's here. Let's like ramp it up and make it an awesome, fun time.
Fan of both franchises. I think one reason why a subset of Godzilla fans today misinterpret Godzilla as a purely serious thing in Japan is because for the last few years, Godzilla fans have been treated to a series of shorts where Godzilla fights classic adversaries who haven't been on film for a while, all taking place in the Heisei continuity. We've seen Godzilla Jr. fight Gigan, and
that's also not technically accurate based on other information we know. So Gemstone, it really isn't like a sequel to the Heisei series. Plus, also, if he's saying like, oh, well, like we've been only Hark, I know what he's gonna say here, but we'll just continue. I'll make my point in a second.
Yeah.
Megalon. And we have a reunion match between Godzilla and Jet Jaguar, who to this day is still peak, but they're not being released as the big blockbusters in international markets. Audiences aren't seeing these fun shorts. So Godzilla fans are getting them in Japan, and they are being released on YouTube, and a lot of hardcore fans are watching them. The average fan who just watched Godzilla -1 and is now introduced to Godzilla as a franchise, a serious franchise, they don't see that Godzilla is still being celebrated for the inherent silliness of Godzilla.
No, like even the clip you show of Godzilla versus Megalon, like that new short, they don't make like it overly silly. Like the designs aren't designed like the Showa suits.
No,
it's like, they're designed to be like fun spectacles, but like in a cool, awesome way. Not like, aha, isn't this so stupid and silly?
Yeah, but and even the whole thing with that Godzilla doing the tail drop kick thing, or at least the callback to that in that short, it's not played up as like it's not like this sort of, it doesn't even come off as like that silly because
it's more like like they have Godzilla use his like energy to boost himself off the ground and then kick back at Megalon. It's not like wow, Godzilla's defying gravity by like sticking his tail at a super odd angle. You could tell that it's a suit that way. And the same thing with the Gigan Lecturer. Even like the suit fights, they go a little bit more into the tokusatsu wrestling type elements of it, but like those are closer to like the Ultraman stuff, which again are more closely marketed towards children, but they aren't like, oh, isn't it super silly that we're having these guys fight like this? It's more just embracing the fact that this is tokusatsu.
Yeah.
Godzilla. All they see is Godzilla is serious business now. They might have seen Shin Godzilla, they might have seen Godzilla -1, and maybe they've seen the Legendary films as well. But the hardcore Godzilla fans we're seeing online today that is new to the franchise, they don't seem to realize that a lot of longtime fans love the silly aspects of Godzilla.
You mean longtime fan? You mean the people who grew up with the Showa era and like don't even mention the Heisei Millennium eras, which the Heisei Millennium and the Reiwa eras on their own with their series entries essentially now surpass the Showa era, and even then the Showa era isn't full of silly moments. So if we like take out all of the series Showa movies, you have more overtly self-serious Godzilla movies than silly Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
I would argue that it's silly, but it's not self-aware in a postmodern way about it.
Right.
I would say like true, but I feel like that's a distinction without a distinction. Like I get what you're trying to say, but I don't necessarily agree with the stance. But I understand what you're saying, Omni.
Even if it's goofy, even if it's absurd, the silliness, the brawls, that's what drew us in the first place as kids.
Also, wait.
Absurd. Don't seem to realize that a lot of longtime fans love the silly aspects of Godzilla. Even if it's goofy, even if it's absurd, the silliness, the brawls, that's what drew us in the first place as kids.
Again, this is your childhood, not mine.
Well, let's talk for a second about the American Legendary Pictures Godzilla, because the 2014 film harkens back to the seriousness of the original film. They treat Godzilla less as a monster or superhero and more as this defender of nature, this genuinely serious entity that maintains the balance between humanity's destructive forces, between forces outside of the world. He is Earth's protector, but he's not necessarily humanity's protector. Over time, we've seen from 2014 to 2024, Godzilla has shifted. He has become this almost Lovecraftian entity of cosmic proportions to the Showa era fun Godzilla. We've seen it. We've gone through the same cycle in roughly the same period of time that Japan went with Godzilla. Because again, King Kong vs. Godzilla, that was about 10 years after the first Godzilla film. No, a little less actually. I think it was 62. So within 8 years, much like we had with Legendary, Japan had a silly Godzilla in just as few films.
Yeah, but like also, you have the Showa era, start serious, end serious, and then had to go on hiatus because of what the Showa era was, comes back serious, ends serious. And then you have the Millennium series that starts serious, ends spectacular, but I wouldn't say it ends silly. And now you have starting serious with 2014 and -1 being serious, but GVK being more on the silly side. And I don't think he's saying that. We'll play that back real quick.
Cycle in roughly the same period of time. Proportions to the or, but he's not necessarily humanity's protector. Over time, we've seen from 2014 to 2024, Godzilla has shifted. He has become this almost Lovecraftian entity of cosmic proportions to the Showa era fun Godzilla.
I think that like he's not saying that Godzilla's Lovecraftian to you guys in the chat. What he's saying is that essentially the concept of a serious Godzilla is this looming like presence that is threatening to take over and consume the Showa silly Godzilla that he likes and thinks that Godzilla has always been, which is a terrible comparison. And I hate that people would say something is Lovecraftian and then never follow up on what they mean by that. But yeah,
I took that to mean as 2014 started out as Lovecraftian, but now he's Showa in JFK and stuff. That's why.
But even then, like that's still a terrible comparison then, because 2014 is in no way Lovecraftian and how it handles things.
We've seen it. We've gone through the same cycle in roughly the same period of time that Japan went with Godzilla. Because again, King Kong vs. Godzilla, that was about 10 years after the first Godzilla film. No, a little less actually. I think it was 62. So within 8 years, much like we had with Legendary, Japan had a silly Godzilla in just as few appearances. 3 films, he's silly again. In both. And now we're seeing that continue into the Showa, into our modern American Showa era of Godzilla.
Yeah, you're a modern American, but then like you have Shin Godzilla, then you have the anime trilogy, Singular Point, -1. None of these have been silly like the Showa series, but okay.
Yeah.
That serious Godzilla they got from Godzilla -1, but they're forgetting the cycle. They're forgetting the pace at which Godzilla.
No, they're not forgetting the cycle. You are misinterpreting the cycle. The cycle has always been.
Did you forget?
What if I forgot, Vic? Please tell me. Please tell me.
I don't know. He said you forgot, Zim.
Apparently, because like somehow, some way, Palpatine is returned. But no, the cycle has always been Godzilla starts out serious, and that is what you need to buy into Godzilla as a character. only in the show era did we get a long range of silly that ended serious, and we had a super long hiatus. Then we got back with Godzilla with serious, went serious all the way until his death, another hiatus. Then you got the Millennium Era, starts serious, ends bombastic. I would not say it ends off silly. And then we've just gone, we start serious, and again, to buy in the fans and buy in that level of dedication to actually take on the franchise and view all these entries. And only now have you gotten silly. And I'll be very curious to see what the next film brings, but I doubt we'll be able to see as big a highs as we get from GXK. But I could
just for my curiosity, where's 98 playing that? Do you think?
I would say that because since 98 isn't really part of the Heisei series, and it's not part of the Millennium Era, and it's his own thing. You get one American, and the things is that since you only have the movie and the TV show, it's not like with the Monsterverse where you could be you got one serious movie, one silly movie. It's you got one movie that's generally more serious, but it has a lot of sillier moments that bring down the film's tone. But I wouldn't call it Showa silly either. But you got semi-serious, I guess would be the best word I could use to describe it.
It's semi-serious with with lots of humor throughout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Changes. And I think a lot has to do with the familiarity audiences have with Godzilla at a given point in time. In the Showa era, we were becoming more familiar with Godzilla for the first time, and children loved it. So they made Godzilla films that humanize Godzilla. If you watch Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, there's a great scene where Mothra has to argue with Godzilla and Rodan to get them to work together.
Mothra says, the earth belongs to man, and the belongs to man.
And it's a great scene because you have the fairies translating because they can speak monster apparently. And Godzilla just unleashes a bunch of swears at one point.
Oh, Godzilla, what terrible language!
It's so
we got the Godzilla terrible language.
And Godzilla just unleashes a bunch of swears at one point.
Oh, Godzilla, what terrible language!
Yeah, we got that scene too. There we go. Wonderful.
Yeah, we gotta have that.
It's so goofy and so silly, but it's such a part of the appeal of Godzilla at that era. And we've never seen anything that silly before. We've seen Godzilla and Kong communicate, but it's usually done through the dramatics of their, very expressive CGI models in these new films. We're not seeing a fairy translate when Godzilla decides to drop an F-bomb or say a slur about Rodan's mother or something. We are seeing, though, that same mentality, just reinterpreted through a different lens.
Are pizza pies really better like this? And that's chicken. That's not even pizza. That's not pizza either.
Saying watching American Godzilla follow the same cycle that Japanese Godzilla did, becoming increasingly more about the fun kaiju action than the existential horror these monsters represents, because the existential horror settles down.
Godzilla, huh? Okay, let me see what you're made of.
When all is said and done, what is the value in these films? What artistic merit do we get from watching monsters clobbering monsters? In some sense, there is something very profound about it. These kaiju were created to represent how dwarfed humanity was by the reality around them. Godzilla represents the fear of nuclear war, very obviously. Everyone knows that. But also the fear of out-of-control nuclear testing. Nagasaki and Hiroshima are just as influential on Godzilla as the nuclear testing on Bikini Atoll. Kong, however, represents the wrath of nature. And
he did it. He did it. He also said that Kong has his theme about the wrath of nature. It's not like they just wanted a fun action movie. And Marion C. Cooper has said numerous times that that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, he literally just wanted to make a movie where, because he was inspired by the prospect of a monkey fighting a lizard, pretty much. So he wanted to make some kind of story around that, and managed to tell a good story with it, but still.
Yep.
The danger it posed, as well as humanity believing themselves the master of nature. That's our undoing. We think we can dominate nature, but we can't. And that's always relevant. And Kong's limited appearances lend itself to that, because 30s, 70s, 2000s, different ways to interpret how we think we can dominate nature.
Or maybe that's why Kong was able to keep a pretty consistent thematic through line, is because of the less films they had. Also, real quick, another super chat from the Blackaroonie again. This man's making my brain commit Chikashima. Don't make me commit Sudoku.
Oh, Sudoku?
I got nothing to live for. I must commit seppuku.
I gotta play Sudoku.
Bro, why don't you commit Sudoku?
Yeah.
But every kaiju represents something. the fear of the cosmos with Ghidorah, the worship of the old and natural with Mothra, the power of volcanic eruptions and the hurricane with Rodan. Every single monster is born of something. You get to see these characters head to head.
But they're monsters, so they're silly. So then, like, why should we care? I understand like what he's trying to say now about like what we can grasp from these things, but like you spent almost half an hour demeaning these films for how silly they are. So like then trying to be like, oh, you can get a lot from these movies and talking about the thematic layers. You've shot yourself in the foot with how you've constructed this video.
Oh my God.
Trying to damage control now.
Yeah, yeah, you'd think that this guy would have just like redraft the fucking script. Like,
you think he would be more self-aware than this?
Yes, you think.
You would think that.
Yeah.
No one cares about destruction in cities in Godzilla films. There's a reason people have fun with it because it's all head to head. There's a reason no one cares about destruction in cities in Godzilla films. There's a reason people have.
No, there's a lot of people who care about the destruction because they want to see the spectacle, but also because they like how the world building affects the universe. And there's a lot that you can do, especially if you're dealing with a persistent world that is dealing with these monsters. Like the one little Godzilla little restaurant that's in Godzilla vs. Biollante. That's a cool little detail that comes from the destruction and makes you care about the destruction. Be like, oh yeah, these places, if they were built, may do stuff relating to Godzilla. Like things like that is like that's cool, and that's what we like about the world building. What gives it thematic meaning?
Yeah,
have fun with it because it's all a set. It's all an artifice. And the artificiality of these sets is part of the fun. At least in the older films. Modern films, they play up the horror, but between the original Godzilla film and the Heisei era, even into the Heisei era, these sets, these miniatures, they were fun because we can watch the destruction take place without thinking about real devastation. There's a childlike charm to it, where kids just cling together action figures and don't have to worry about whether or not the chip paint on the surface will diminish its value. Because, let's be obvious, you're not going to resell those figures, ever, if you're playing with these kids. But it's also about us coming to terms with the expanse of things outside our control. These Godzilla films, not the action figures, I'm getting a little sidetracked here. When Godzilla manages to lighten up, we are allowed to explore the sheer expanse of what Godzilla represents and the other kaiju. And we're able to take hold of that fear. We're able to...
Or you can still do that with Godzilla being serious, or you can lighten up Godzilla without making it silly. Like, again, the dichotomy you set up is not a dichotomy.
Grapple with it and side with it in some cases. For a moment, we're able to truly escape from a reality where the world is outside our control. And granted access to a world where everything is completely outside of control, but things still work out for us. Godzilla is on our side. Even though he is the representative of destruction and terror, he's our destruction and terror. And he's helping us stop the other forms of destruction and terror that are outside of our own control entirely. Or the consequences of our own hubris, you might say. And we can see some cool monsters fight. You can see the force of the atom against the hurricane, against aliens, against chickens with buzzsaws coming out of their chests, against cockroaches. You know, honestly, Megalon is something to be said about the...
Again, this is why you should gatekeep anyone who defines like a kaiju by like its characteristics like that. If you hear someone say Gigan is a chicken with a buzzsaw, gatekeep them. Because inherently, you know for a fact by that definition that they can't bite into a wacky design for a character, even if it's justified within the setting. And because of that, there is nothing of value that they can really glean from the medium and from like whatever that piece of media is, because they can't see beyond that dumbed down derivative and the word is escaping me at the moment. Concept.
The only way you could ever like sort of be like, okay, and just the only way you could possibly even remotely give them a pass is if they were just being ironic, pretty much, and they pretty much make it very clear that they're being ironic. But
that's
then,
the thing is that there's so much post irony involved in like these kinds of videos that like you never know anymore if someone's being like ironic or not. So it's like better to just treat it all a certain way than be like they're just trying to sift through it because like there's just no value really, honestly.
Yeah.
The ideas of Megalon, a giant cockroach fighting the atomic age personified. There's a joke in there that cockroaches will survive the nuclear apocalypse of society.
He did it again! It's 3.
Oh, I'm 3.
But yeah, that's 3. I don't think I've ever seen that many Megalon drop kicks in one video.
I don't what I don't know why this guy thinks he could just play it over and over just because like, oh hey, like, just because I haven't proven my point before, the first time, let's do it a third time.
I think that like literally these guys will just like use the Megalon dropkick as like a form of like subliminal messaging, be like, Godzilla will always be silly. Megalon dropkick talking robots.
It's like psychomatic conditioning pretty much.
This is why kaiju films like Godzilla survive, while many of the other classic monster films outside of Toho's Factory fade into obscurity. No one cares about the giant claw, because he doesn't fight another monster in his film. And he only looks like a big flying battleship. That's what he's good for. Or
because the effects are, like, the film doesn't have any good writing and the effects aren't that good. That's probably why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it can't be as simple as that.
Outside of the Ray Harryhausen special effects for some of these monsters, a lot of them have faded into obscurity in pop culture, A, because they lack a shared universe and lore. Again, some films do this better than others, but also because they are monsters that humanity can ultimately defeat. And yes, Godzilla Minus One and Shin Godzilla both highlight humanity's capability to come together and stop a monster. But there's at least roadblocks that keep us from doing that. At least, and not just the monster, but societal roadblocks. Difficulties within the government, difficulties coming together, finances, devastation, relying on other world superpowers. It's easier for us to stop a bad guy, though, in films where it's just the military comes in and shoots the monster and the day's saved. The giant claw ends with us beating the monster. The only threat is external, because those films were made to emphasize how humanity was already together, that human strength and ingenuity could stop anything. But kaiju represents something different. Kaiju's classic brawls do not have the illusion that humanity is in control. Humanity stands little to no chance against Rodan, against Ghidorah, against Gigan, against Mechagodzilla, against Hedorah.
Except, in the first Godzilla movie and almost all the solo outings where they are able to find a way to come together and fight humanity, and therefore just thematically getting to the same point as some of the American monster movies. Like, what? Okay.
Unless we create monsters of our own, as is the case with Mechagodzilla in the later Heisei films. If anything, humanity's attempts to stop kaiju actually makes things worse. Destroya is the creation of the original oxygen destroyer. It's a weird mutation thing with Godzilla's in the ocean and all the microbial things coming to life as this great monster. In stopping Godzilla, we created a worse monster, one that destroys Godzilla ultimately. I think it's ultimately thematic that humanity beats Destroya, because Destroya is really humanity's complete mess, and we clean it up.
It's actually interesting that I love the fact that he said this here, because it kind of proves that he probably did just watch a bunch of like Godzilla video essays, or like probably literally just watched James Rolfe's Godzilla-thon, because it really isn't the military on their own that defeats Destroya. It's because Godzilla was able to weaken Destroya enough for the military to intervene at the last minute. Like, it really is not humanity's kill, like, at the end of the day.
It's not definitively, it's not like immediate directly humanity's kill 100%. It's pretty much Godzilla. It's the combination of Godzilla and the military.
Yeah, the only reason why people say like, oh, the military kills Destroya is because they deliver one blow that ends up finally doing Destroya in before Godzilla does, so therefore it's the military's kill, when Godzilla literally did all the work.
Yeah, the military just kind of finished the job before Godzilla did, because Godzilla was
Godzilla would have killed Destroya before he melted down, without a doubt.
Godzilla is ultimately destroyed, and humanity contains Godzilla's explosive force. Humanity stops Destroya. The end of the Heisei era is humanity finally taking control of our fate and destiny. And it's done in a very silly movie where Godzilla's heart's about to explode and blow up the planet.
Again, this is why gatekeep people like this, because if they think that like, oh, Godzilla's heart's exploding, therefore movie silly, it will blow up planet, then you just cannot buy into the franchise at a base level and actually really understand anything thematically relevant about these movies in a way that's meaningful outside of the factoids that you pulled from other people's work.
Yeah, you can't even take this. You're probably, if you pretty much do what this guy does, you're incapable of like taking the story, no matter how fantastical it may be, mechanically speaking, on its own terms, pretty much. Like, you can't.
People wonder why fans don't like it when normies do Godzilla video essays. It's because of things like this.
Yeah, like it's like, it'd be one thing if someone were to say like Godzilla versus King Ghidorah is bad because the time travel in it doesn't make sense. It's like that's one thing. But this guy would say like, oh, Godzilla versus King Ghidorah is bad, but it's okay because it doesn't even need to make sense. It's just silly inherently. It's like, fuck off. with that. Don't even. I wouldn't even.
Jeez. Now, that's the time the Heisei era discussed humanity's influence on nature.
Just look at that. It'll ruin our future.
In Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, we see a World War II soldier who felt that Godzilla, who he encountered during the war prior to his transformation into a kaiju, he believes he has a special kinship with Godzilla. He feels a connection to him. And so later on in the film, they're reunited, and Godzilla just blows him up.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't just blow him up.
No hesitation, just bombard him.
No, what do you? That's an outright lie.
What?
No hesitation, just bombard him. And he moves on.
Okay,
Like,
all right.
bro,
Let me.
lying. I made sure to pull it up here. Like, we'll go to the scene. We'll just have to stop because of copyright. Like, I don't want Toho like absolutely wrecking my bumhole with
right.
Copyright.
I mean, I would. Yeah.
Nope.
It'll ruin our future.
I want to make sure that's on 2x speed because I'm like, Toho's already gonna be like, eh. So
Yeah. Just be careful. I was gonna take this, by the way. I was gonna wait. I'm gonna be like, dude, let me go after this.
Kobashi. Mr. Shino. But sir, you must leave your office. Wait.
Yes, I know that. But this is the way that I want it. Let me have it my way. I nearly died on Nagas Island, along with my entire garrison. But the dinosaurs saved us all. And all of that prosperity I built.
Yep.
It's being destroyed by the same dinosaur at this moment. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Like, even right here, he's not saying he doesn't feel like he has a special bond with Godzilla. He just knows that it's because of Godzilla that I'm alive, and he's also like he recognizes the fact that it's ironic now that because of what he built and what he did with the nuclear sub, that now Godzilla is like strong enough to defeat King Ghidorah, but then also to start destroying the city.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with being like, oh, me and Godzilla are like these super awesome best friends because this is a silly, goofy, fun monster movie, right, guys?
Oh no, Godzilla's blowing me up all of a sudden. I don't know why. It's like, no, there's a reason. There's pretty much a reason.
As well as like, so let's we'll start there. So you start about 1 minute.
Yeah.
And then you have all of this.
Yeah, you got a whole chunk of movie.
You get to like that's like a whole minute. Even if you say like, oh, it's just 1 minute. Like Godzilla doesn't go from like here to this. Like
yeah, to blowing him up.
Like even he does it here. Like watch.
Human life means nothing. So it just blows him up. He believes he has a special kinship with Godzilla. He feels a connection to him. And so later on in the film, they're reunited, and Godzilla just blows him up.
Like, he cuts so much out from this scene.
This jackass here can't even, like, be honest for even remotely. I mean, like, come on, dude. It's like, you can criticize Godzilla versus King Ghidorah for many valid reasons, but to say that Godzilla just kills a guy out of nowhere without any like connective tissue to justify it, it's like, what? It's like even if the connective tissue is like badly done, it's still connective tissue. You can't just lie your eye like this.
Human life means nothing to the Titanic Force, and yet the film also emphasizes how humanity can beat Godzilla in multiple ways. The main conflict of the film are these time travelers who come back in time from the future and they stop Godzilla by preventing his birth. Don't think too hard about the time travel mechanics in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. It's very flaky and weird. So in stopping Godzilla, they and due to time travel shenanigans, they figure out a way to bring back Godzilla, but also King Ghidorah is still here. And so they fight. And when King Ghidorah is beaten by Godzilla, they now realize, oh wait, we still deal with Godzilla, and somehow he's stronger than ever. So by interfering with time travel and trying to stop all this stuff, Godzilla comes back stronger and angrier than ever before. So to stop Godzilla, they bring back King Ghidorah as Mecha King Ghidorah, which is again that little figure I loved as a kid. I didn't know what it was. I didn't realize it was humanity reclaiming their own errors to stop this monster. And the cool thing is, they win. Yes, it's always a running gag in Godzilla films. The military can't stop Godzilla. But in the King Ghidorah film, in the Heisei era, humanity does beat Godzilla. Yes, they make several mistakes along the way. And yes, it's a plot from the future people versus the people from the present. It's a whole weird sci-fi Terminator 2 inspired plot. But
Terminator 2. Terminator 2. Wait.
Yeah, very reductive there, pretty much. Even coming from someone like me.
Like Terminator 2.
Sorry.
Like Terminator 2 isn't no, you're good, but like Terminator 2 is 91. Okay. But like Terminator 2 isn't a silly movie either. So like
No, not even
it's
like
super weird. There's like, bro, Godzilla, it's about a giant dinosaur. It's so silly. Terminator 2 is literally about robots from the future who try to kill a woman before her child is born who will then defeat the robots, which doesn't even like the time travel rules of the Terminator series don't ever make sense. It's
Yeah, I mean, I'm real. Yeah, it's like I really hate how reductive like these people can be of like these kinds of stories. It's like, but you would never hear them say that about Terminator 2 because that's one of the classics. That's one of the greats of all time. But you can do that with Godzilla because why not?
It's
because
big silly dinosaur.
Yeah,
don't you remember when Mom said that they were going to do it? Dad, I clapped.
Yeah, big lizard fights big dragon. Also, time travelers. It's like again, like Godzilla versus King Ghidorah should be an easy movie to pretty much explain. Okay, this is why this movie is silly because there are a lot of things in it that are valid problems in the plot, in the time travel and all that. But he just breezes past over them. He's just like, yeah, no, whatever, time travel.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, humanity reclaims their mistakes, fights Godzilla in a cool fight, and ultimately wins. And it's a great movie. It's so much fun. It's so fun.
Except Godzilla's still alive by the end because here's the thing: dropping Godzilla in the water. I don't know why Miki would even think that would even work when he fell into a volcano and he still lived for like half a decade living in there.
Yeah, it's super
between
weird.
Return of Godzilla and Biollante. God.
Oh well.
In order to fight. And it's a cool monster design too. That's fun of it also. There is some thematic depth that's as subtle as a brick to the face. But the fun of it is watching giant monsters fight. And of course, there's other films in the Heisei deal with similar themes, like Biollante, who is a combination of Godzilla, Rose, and the soul of a forsaken child, which is just bizarre, and I love it. And it's grotesque and monstrous and fantastic. And it's hammy, and it has not a subtle bone in its body, but it's so much fun. It's so fun. And the monster designs are out of control and illogical. It makes no sense. If you think about it for more than 5 seconds, the logic breaks down. But it's so much fun to watch.
You want to, if it's not that hard, then just do it, please.
Then just elaborate. Give us one thing about Godzilla vs. Biollante that doesn't make sense. Just one. Blackaroonie could come on and do it.
Yeah.
And in the Showa era, just forget it. Humanity is never at fault after the initial Godzilla films. Like the first few films, yeah, capitalism with Mothra and King Kong versus Godzilla, that's the problem. But then it comes aliens. It's always aliens. Aliens this, subterranean.
And meanwhile,
not like aliens have been like a giant stand-in for certain thematic issues that society is facing.
Yeah, and even then, and even then, go back to Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. They subverted that by having it be time travelers, pretty much. I mean, again,
yes.
It's
versus Megalon, which again, one of the introductory films I saw and owned on VHS. And yes, there's the VHS where they're standing on top of the World Trade Centers, even though it makes no logical sense of what happens in the film. The more people call up the aliens and say, "Hey, we're getting our butts beaten. Can we borrow Gigan?" And it's like, "Yeah, sure, have Gigan. Yeah, come on over. Bring Gigan over." It's great. It's so silly. And the big crossover film, essentially, destroy all monsters. The aliens come down and mind control all the monsters. They're just wreaking havoc everywhere. And the movie is like 80 minutes of boring garbage and then 10 minutes of great kaiju action. But that 10 minutes is like the Avengers event of the 60s. You got them all together, all gang up on King Ghidorah, who just gets curb stomped in the most unfair fight of all time. And everyone does a little, even like Godzilla Jr. Vanilla, he gets a little couple smoke rings around Ghidorah's neck, and it's like cool. And it's the canonical end of the Showa era, a big brawl between monsters. And it's dumb, and it's goofy, and it's so much fun. It is just a joy to watch. And you're not thinking of anything. It's aliens. There's no theme. There's no idea.
Yeah, truly, because the idea of aliens has never been anything thematically relevant. It's not like it was just an easy concept that had been tried once before and had its thematic depth there, and it could be applicable across a lot of the series. No.
That onslaught of gobbledygook that I just heard from him about destroy all monsters is just like, oh, it's literally just like 80 minutes of bullshit, and you only have like 5 minutes of like monster action, and Ghidorah just gets curb stomped like a little bitch. Oh, but it's so much fun. I can't get enough of it. It's like what is this? It's like he's James McAvoy's character from Split. He just has like 5 personalities, just going from one to another to another to another, and they each have a different perspective that just don't even make sense with each other.
Let's keep going. We're almost there, gentlemen.
Folks.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of people in a WWE wrestling match.
Minecraft World is in the back.
The worst.
Oh, he's in the back?
Oh, he's in the back. Down to the back.
Stay in the back.
To the back.
Hi.
How long were you back there?
I just got in. In. I had work earlier, but I just got out of work, so don't worry.
Yeah. Yep. You've been missing out on some pretty fascinating stuff so far.
I've seen this video before, so don't worry. But yeah, I'll probably give my thoughts once we're done.
Oh, you poor soul.
Yeah.
Bad. This is bad.
It is really bad.
Granted, it's been a bit since I've seen it. I'll probably watch it on my own time though.
For this entire saga, it's fantastic. Godzilla is a representative of mankind's nuclear hubris, and he saves the day, and he makes friends, and he makes an island where all the monsters can hang out together. It becomes the optimism of the human race, where we can live with these destructive forces, we can experience the consequences of our actions, and then continue, and then survive, and then persevere. Because even though we're living with these destructive, horrible forces that can destroy us in an instant, we are still able to coexist between both the natural world and the world that we create. The Showa era has this theme to it of surviving with destruction, not in opposed to destruction, but in balance with it. And when we do something that's really bad, like an alien comes by, we let them take over the world, or we pollute too much, the natural world, or maybe in this case, the nuclear powers that we've created, can stop it. Godzilla destroys pollution. That's pretty cool. You know, it's that kind of dream. It's that kind of solar punk aesthetic, except it's kaiju action.
Take that solar punk out of your mouth. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I also think solar punk as a genre is stupid, but
take that solar punk out your fucking mouth. Thing is, I get what he's saying about the whole coexistence thing, but like, that's for all intents and purposes, the Showa era just completely made it up. That it didn't go in with any thematic aspects in mind.
Yeah, and thematic aspects depending on who is writing the stories, but like the whole like connective tissue idea that he's coming together with, it feels it's a critique made out of hindsight that a lot of people, when they examine the series as a whole, like to make.
Yeah, like at least the MonsterVerse, like pretty much like pretty much stuck with that theme of coexistence, like pretty early on. Whereas the Showa era, it took them a while to get to that. If you can't say that's what they tried to do.
The Showa era's like it didn't get to the coexistence part until movie 5, like 5 movies in with Ghidorah the three-headed monster. Yeah, and then it only really like. It didn't have that much of that kind of theme until rolling with it with Destroy All Monsters.
Yeah.
And even then, Hedorah and All Monsters Attack don't have that theme.
Yeah.
Not explicitly. Gigan doesn't really have a theme, period. Neither does Megalon.
Gigan definitely in a way, just like Gigan and Megalon feel more like filler films in that sense. They're essentially going off the same tropes that we've known about for Godzilla movies that have alien plots, rather than like having specific themes of their own. But even then, they still have that connective tissue where the only reason why the Seatopians are attacking is because of the nuclear testing that was they were affected by, and then
underground nuclear tests.
And then with the Space Hunter Nebula M, they have issue where they just want to come to Earth because of the resources, and they've already destroyed their planet. So
and
they're like based on like what we do, we could end up just like them.
The Space Hunter aliens are space roaches. If you want to avoid like the overlong name, and the Simians kind of have a similar motive. They try to like move to another planet. Much.
Granted, Mechagodzilla also has elements of like science versus nature and how that goes, but it's very, 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 very loose, especially with the first one. Terror expands on it a little more. At least to my recollection, I might need to rewatch that one.
But Terror Mechagodzilla does do it more than the first one.
Yeah, Terror, to my recollection, does expand on that, but it's, again, still somewhat loose.
Don't read too much into the Showa films. They're very silly. But that theme of humanity surviving alongside ancient and recent monsters and continuing to persevere is a beautiful message. The cheesy Godzilla films are not without messages. They clearly have a lot of themes to them, but they're just so over the top and glorious. There isn't a subtle bone in the Showa era Godzilla's body.
Not a subtle bone in the Showa era's body. King Kong versus Godzilla is my counterpoint. Ghidorah the three-headed monster. Yeah, that one too. Destroy All Monsters, kind of.
Terror of Mechagodzilla.
Terror of Mechagodzilla as well.
I mean, I'm sure there's definitely subtle elements in the very first movie, like
Yeah, I'm avoiding the first movie, but like going for the silly ones as well. Because Gojira was not silly. Gojira was not silly, no question. Neither was Raids Again.
No, don't you know, Minecraft World? Godzilla's always been silly. When they said we're gonna be a daddy soon, I clapped. It's so silly, guys.
Don't you know it's just about a guy in a dinosaur suit? That's really all it is. Just guy in a dinosaur suit smashing up little miniature buildings and cars and all that. It's not really about anything beyond that.
No, God, no, but yeah, a lot of All Monsters Attack, I think, was pretty subtle. That one was incredibly subtle. Jesus, like. The bullying side, not so much, but like
the thing about like him and his parents is far more subtle.
Yeah, that is really subtle. So, no, they do have subtle bones in their bodies.
Yeah,
that's
it's just a matter of like which one of them executes those messages well and which ones don't. Yeah. It's really that's the more meaningful conversation.
I would go on a limb to say that All Monsters Attack does execute its message somewhat well. Meanwhile, Terror of Mechagodzilla and especially Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla doesn't 100% execute its themes well. They're still good movies, but
I'd argue that,
I would have to disagree with you on that, but that could be a discussion for another time.
That's a whole another string's worth of discussion.
Yeah,
and that's great. With these new films coming out, I hope they harken back to the fun that these old films had, because there is so much joy in classic Godzilla. There's so much fun to it that I think a lot of people are neglecting. They're sleeping on it because they want the serious, dramatic, Oscar-winning films. But the fact remains that you can have your silliness, you can have your goofiness, and you can have seriousness because you're coexisting with both the destructive forces of nature and just the sheer fun of giant monsters. It is all the fun of going into your toy box and taking out figures of characters you don't really know, but you've created this whole backstory in your head about them, and you're clinging them together, and you're knocking down cardboard buildings. Showa-era Godzilla harkens back to the true childhood a lot of us had. Even if they're destructive, even if there's violence there, even if the themes are representative of these bigger world powers beyond our understanding, they bottle it down to fun little avatars.
Yeah, I think that this dude just really wants, like, he has some like weird nostalgic pining for like what he thought of when it came to Godzilla, and because of that, that's sort of where he thinks that the franchise should stay.
Is mine echoing on your end?
No.
Okay, good. I'm just gonna. All right, but yeah, that's just. I think my biggest problem with it is like how the title itself is probably the biggest problem I have with it, because Godzilla was not always silly. I know you did the joke earlier, but still,
I'm about to scream the joke again.
Yeah, no, I'm stopping you right there. But like the title to me screams like saying Gamera was never kid friendly, which is blatantly false. Like the very first Gamera movie was kid friendly. The very first Godzilla movie was a very serious story.
Yeah.
One that very explicitly, like, Gojira is a horror movie first and foremost.
Yeah.
So,
he's going about this like very like sort of stance of like, oh, we could just have both and all that, but still recognize. But we also have to recognize that even the serious movies are silly. It's just like, first of all, that second statement's wrong, and second of all, if you notice, I just flipped those around. But like, it's like, we can have both, but they as long as they're well executed in what they're trying to do. Like a serious Godzilla movie can be well executed. No reason why a lighthearted Godzilla movie can't be well executed. So it's like,
well, what's it called? Minecraft, you missed it earlier. Say his words. We cannot have both. Say his words. We cannot have both.
I will.
What a wonderful day.
What a wonderful day!
No, I am loving. Here's the thing. Like, I love that that Proximus Caesar has just kind of become a meme almost. I kind of love it.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I definitely think Kingdom of Planet Apes is pretty good, actually. Not as strong as the Caesar trilogy, but pretty good.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that at some point. I just forgot, and then the account.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that at some point. It was like on the go.
Nice.
But there we go. Finally tied that loose end.
Yay. But yeah, that's kind of my only problem with the video. That's kind of my biggest problem with the video. The way that he words the title. But yeah, I'm probably going to rewatch the video myself on my own time.
Oh God, why would you want to do that?
I don't know.
I couldn't even get to
I'll
the first 10 minutes.
I'll rewatch the stream, or I'll rewatch the stream just to, you know.
You can hear me hooting like an owl. After I heard some bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I
That's gonna be fun.
I wish you luck on rewatching it, because I couldn't even get through the first 10 minutes of it, before, just to prepare for the stream. So,
Lord.
Yeah.
Also, Zim, if we're gonna do more of these in the future, for a recommendation, Bog of Bones' video on the human characters of the kaiju genre.
What was it?
Bog of Bones' video on the human characters of the kaiju genre.
Bog of Bones?
Yeah, I'll find it. Let me find it real fast. It's the same guy who did that Kaijuology documentary.
Oh, but yeah, he does good content though. So I don't try to cover people who do
the good content, but I still think it's a video that's worth discussing, because I feel like a talk about the human characters at some point would be really interesting.
Yeah, I think that definitely. What we may do is that after the Godzilla pitch stream, I'm thinking I may do another Kaiju Roundtable with human characters again. And in that case, I'm thinking that what we could do is have what's it called? We can cover that video as part of another human character stream.
Yeah. Also for the Monsterverse pitch one, I remember you said that we were going to cover the Fireword Media pitch that I posted.
Oh yeah, we never did get to do that, right?
Yeah, we forgot to do that. I'm a little bit miffed that the original stories didn't win the poll, because ooh man.
Well, what's called the originals made it in second place, so
I voted. Yeah, I voted for that one because oh God, I want to see what you guys have to offer, and I really want to talk about my story.
I think in that case too, for people who are doing like original stuff, I guess it just means people have more time to actually work on the pitches more if they feel like they're not comfortable with like where their original stuff is. So
Fair
like
enough.
I guess it's like a double-edged sword in a way.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And frankly, like if that's the case, then sure. Better get it solid, better late than never with a solid pitch.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
I know. I think I did save Black Rooney's tweets because he also like one sec because it's not about this video. Let me go back.
Yeah, because he said he was like upset about not joining this. Which,
no, because he also said, genuinely have seen people tell me my recent video on YouTube Critics is the worst video they've ever explained. Explain how it's worse than this Godzilla video. Bro, your Godzilla video isn't much better.
Yeah. Granted, it's not edited like an ADH. It's not edited like someone's. How do I describe this? How do I describe it without going into a rant?
No, but I'll say this: at least that video, and we said this early in the stream, that video at least had a specific style that it was going for, and it stuck to that. This video is like nothing.
Yeah, it's this video is like about as like tourist as you could possibly get, pretty much. Aside from organized chaos, that's really
Yeah, fair.
That's Black said on his tweet. Let's do some math. Dr. Skipper's video is 26 minutes long, and 90% of the stuff he said was incorrect, with 10% being correct. Your video is 48 minutes long, and 100% of the stuff you said was incorrect. I'll give Skipper a pass here.
Oh God, it's 48 minutes long. Jesus Christ.
Lamau. Yeah. A part of me wants to like ask him to watch some of the other Gamera stuff because he's been mentioning the Heisei Gamera trilogy a lot in his videos, which is
really,
yeah. Well, okay, he mentioned it in the Kate Randa video. I remember that, and then I remember he brought it up a few times in some of his other videos.
Oh, you're talking about Black Rooney's thing.
Yeah, Black Rooney.
I thought you were talking about Anthony. Whatever.
No, not Anthony. Anthony, I don't think did a video on Gamera. Anthony, I don't think did anything on Gamera. I don't even know if he thinks. I don't even think he knows that Gamera exists, which is
he's too touristy. If he had this tourist of a take on Godzilla, I guarantee you he's not gonna probably even know.
He'd be like, bro, he'll probably give the same tepid Gamera takes that everyone's always made about how they really redefined Gamera with the Heisei trilogy. Not like we haven't seen those for years.
Yeah, he'll pretty much mention like, oh, and I also remember Mr. Science Theater 3000 did episodes on a bunch of Gamera movies too.
Yeah, and, oh no, we'll definitely see Gamera Acrobats. That will definitely be something he'll show off.
I think the major Gamera videos that I think of, the most major Gamera videos that I've seen were GSTE's video on the Heisei trilogy, the one that got a lot of flack.
GSTE's
the one where he says the Heisei trilogy is not as good as the as people say.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that one.
I remember he did want to talk about that on like either like in the comments on a stream or something, which I'm probably gonna do. It's just a matter. It's always time is a big thing.
Yeah, I remember. What the hell was it? It was OmniViewer and his friend that watched that, and they did a whole like thing with it. Which
really,
yeah, they posted about that a while ago. And there was a conversation about it in the comments that I remember with the guy.
Because I know he was in the chat.
Yeah, he was in one of the streams a while ago.
Yeah.
And then the other one I remember is Matt Draper's retrospective on the Gamera films, which, if you haven't seen those, they are really, really good. In fact, I'd recommend watching Matt Draper's channel. Period. He does a lot of really good sci-fi retrospectives.
I've seen some of his stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he recently did one on GXK. Another one of my personal favorites is his Planet of the Apes retrospective, which, Jesus Christ, that is extremely well done. And of course, his Gamera films, his Pacific Rim retrospective is also really good.
I think that one I've seen too.
Yeah, his Pacific Rim video is really good. But yeah, those are really the only two that I can think of, which is a bit of a shame because I really want to see more people talk about this guy and not just the Heisei trilogy, because he's got a lot more to him.
Well, and then I know Sam the Gigan fan has a Gamera retrospective that he's been doing with like multiple videos.
Okay, I'll check that one out.
Yeah, Sam's good people.
Yeah, one of the video essays I was thinking of before deciding to do the one on Project Nemesis, and I'm probably going to revisit this one as well. Was basically comparing Gamera to Superman, like why Gamera has such a legacy as he does. Basically comparing him to Superman or Shazam. So probably going to revisit that.
In a lot of ways, Gamera is kind of like Shazam in the sense where Shazam or Captain Marvel's success prompted some changes to be done with Superman as a character.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be something interesting. And then I have to set up the Godzilla Batman stream.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's because I know that's a topic everyone's going to want to talk about. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I would love to pitch in.
I'm also looking forward to that Condom debate when we.
Oh, absolutely.
The Condom debate's going to come back. Is going to happen when I come back from G-Fest. So
cool. Cool. I'll clear my schedule. Yeah, I I'm gonna probably rewatch Cottam while I'm at G Fest. I first need to rewatch Cloverfield for my Project Nemesis video essay. 'Cause I'm gonna be comparing Nemesis to Cloverfield. So
interesting.
So has anybody watched my? Not to be like a peacock or anything, but has anybody who here has watched my Godzilla versus King Ghidorah video?
I think I watched it when it came out.
I started and then I got distracted. Like I got like 2/3 of the way through it and then I got distracted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one I watched right when it came out because I think you posted it in the Discord, so that's why I was able to. I was like, okay.
Awesome. Just like humble thanks to everybody who's been watching that video, getting it out there and really showing the love for it. It's I thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really well done. Like, good God.
And then
I should probably rewatch Godzilla versus King Ghidorah.
It's one of my favorite movies, so I watch it from time to time quite a bit more than some other movies.
Godzilla versus King Ghidorah?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's like I think there's a lot of problems with it, but like I just enjoy watching it.
You know what's fair?
Yeah, fair. Yeah, it's a movie that definitely has fun to be had in it. Mostly if you're drunk, I guess. But
yeah, that's a similar mentality. That's a similar mentality that I had with GXK. With like, it's flawed. It is the most flawed movie of the MonsterVerse, but I absolutely enjoy it for what it is. And I think, and I definitely think it has a lot of qualities to it that often go overlooked. But that's for a different discussion.
Yeah.
But yeah. And Filmento did a video on GXK, which
has flaws. In my opinion, has flaws.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have been like talking about the Filmento video. So I'm like, do I cover it or do I not cover it? I'm like,
I'd say maybe cover it because there are things that he like. For one, I feel like he was a little bit too unfair with the human cast, especially Bernie.
is it going to be like a Zim Defense Filmento stream?
I think you might want to watch it for yourself.
He's unfair to the human cast. You don't need to sell me on the video.
Here's the thing. I'm actually kind of surprised that it took him like this long to actually do like that for Filmento to do a video on the Mummy 2017 when that But of course, when he actually does release it, it's just like, oh, let me guess, it's about how to fumble a cinematic universe. And sure enough, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably just followed the algorithm in that case. Then.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Most people, I don't even know who was even talking about the Mummy 2017 around that time. When he released it.
Like nobody. Whenever people talk about the movie, it's usually the Dark Universe in general, or just a brief mention. Like it's that happened. And then,
well, here's the thing. I made a 3-part essay video series on the Mummy 2017, and part of it was talking about the Dark Universe aspect of it, but it was also mainly talking about the movie itself, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. My thing with that movie, and especially the Dark, like I'm a little bit pained that the Dark Universe didn't happen.
I know, right?
I would have liked to see reimaginings of these characters, especially. Creature from the Black Lagoon, Jekyll and Hyde, and the Wolfman. But
the thing for me is definitely that with the Dark Universe, they aren't like they're essentially being like, what if we Universal reboot our own versions of these monsters? But the problem is that they're straying so far from their own interpretations that if I'm gonna watch a like dark vampire movie that isn't like Bela Lugosi Dracula, I'm not going to go to Warner Brothers for it. I'm just going to look at something else like Blade or Vampire the Masquerade or something else, Underworld. Like I don't want like a reboot of Dracula in the Dark Universe to have been like banking on the tropes of vampire movies that had come out since their interpretation of Dracula. I want their Dracula. Same thing as like I want their Frankenstein.
That's fair, but I personally, like kind of would have liked to have seen what it would have been like if we had like, an MCU type of thing with the Dark Universe. I mean, I personally, I'm
there's
hearing
Echo.
Echo.
Oh, Black's in the Black's in the chat, by the way.
Yeah, you didn't know he was in the chat?
Yeah, Black.
Oh, where's that echo coming from?
Shit. My thing was.
Was that yours? Or was that?
Yeah, that was mine. I accidentally unmuted the stream.
Oh. Yeah. So yeah,
that solves it. Okay.
Okay, where was I before that? Because that echo really just discombobulated me.
My apologies.
About, you were essentially able to argue the value of the Dark Universe, essentially.
Yeah, I honestly would have liked to have seen like how they could have gone. Like I've even had some ideas of like what I would have done if I were to just continue the Dark Universe after the Mummy 2017, and it would be just kind of like a modern sort of version of some of those like other monsters like Frankenstein or Creature from Black Lagoon, and actually have it just be somewhat of like a tighter continuity, because the Universal monsters, as much as classics as those old movies were, once you get to the sequels down the line, continuity wasn't really much of a priority for them. If anything, it was almost like 10th fiddle for them at times, because it's like there's some of those movies, it's just like, wait a minute, wait a minute, we saw the Frankenstein monster like perish in a burning building, but now in the next movie he's frozen in ice. What happened?
How did he get there?
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like the interconnectivity thing would almost kind of seem a bit moot, because what I just named right there, as far as like the monster being found in ice, is in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. That movie works better as a sequel to the Wolfman than any of the Frankenstein movies, pretty much, and just like kind of like a reboot of Frankenstein. Like, if anything, it benefits continuity wise if you were to just ignore the 4 Frankenstein movies that came before it.
Yeah.
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 And then also, what's it called? Minecraft. I'm gonna be once the 7th of July is gonna probably be the longest stream I do, because I'm gonna stream once I get home from work all the way to when I have to leave for the for my plane to Chicago for G Fest. So
nice.
That's gonna be fun.
I'm probably gonna be leaving on the 11th.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I don't know the exact date. I've already scheduled the 10th to the 16th off for both of my jobs. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited to go. I'm very excited to go, and so is my brother.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. I can't. They cannot come quicker. I need this.
Yeah. Wanted to go to G Fest ever since I first heard of it. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
I think I first heard of it back when Shin was first releasing, so like late 2016, early 2017 ish.
No, fair enough.
So yeah, I wanted to go ever since I first heard of it, and now I get the chance. So yay!
There you go.
Very, very excited to see what fan films are there. Like that's what I'm most excited about.
I'm not sure whose albums are going this year, but I will definitely be curious to see who's doing stuff this year.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm interested to see what they got to offer, because because I love me some independent kaiju films. Howl from Beyond the Fog is one of my favorite kaiju movies ever made, and
that's a good piece too. Yeah, and then there's the new one that's coming out. It's like Something of the Gods.
Brush of the Gods.
Brush of the Gods. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that one. Like the Orochi test animation, Jesus, oh Jesus, that is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So,
exactly. I'll definitely be it's gonna be fun to see what they're doing for fan films. I'll be interested to see what the other panels are gonna be like. I know I'll be on 2 panels, so that's gonna be fun.
You're gonna be on 2 panels?
Yeah.
Cool.
Ooh,
I cannot say what the panels are because that's still under wraps, but yeah. So
Yeah, I'll definitely.
I will
definitely
post
send it
in
this
the Discord when the schedules come out, and you'll know who's on all the panels and whatnots. And I'll be like, hey, this is where I will be for these days. Y'all can come say hi, and then I will probably get kidnapped, and that'll be the end of the story.
You get kidnapped.
And then I will John Wick my way out of it.
Yeah.
But
Don't know who you are. What you want?
That's not John Wick. Don't you mess those up.
Well, there wasn't any kidnappings in John Wick, pretty much.
That's true. Yeah. Well, John technically he didn't get kidnapped; he got captured in the first movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that was like one time, pretty much. I mean, in the first movie, I don't know if it's been a while since I've watched the other ones. I don't know. I don't think there was anything like that in the other ones.
Oh, really?
Maybe the fourth one, actually. Now that I think about it,
I barely found out what John Wick was about like a few months ago, like the first movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
How?
Like I just read like I don't know what it was, Netflix or something. I just read the synopsis. I'm like, oh, so that's what it's about.
Wait, are they all on Netflix?
They were at one point. They're off of it.
Ah,
now.
dang it! Because I've been meaning to.
Or maybe some of them are still on it. I know 1 and 2 dropped off, and then the third one was on there for a little longer.
Okay, because I've been meaning to properly watch the rest of them. I've only seen the first one, so
1 and 2 are good. 3's okay. 4 is eh.
Yeah, I've heard mixed to good things about 4.
They're well made. It is still a well made movie. It just does not vibe with me the same way 1 and 2 do. And
I
3
really
doesn't vibe with as much.
I really like all of them, pretty much, all 4 of them. I will say the first one is easily the best film objectively in terms of because it's certainly tighter, pretty much. But but yeah, like the second, third, and fourth films. I mean, man, they just they're like entertaining as hell.
The common consensus I've seen for them is 1's pretty good. 2 or 3 is the best one. And 4 is the weakest, but still enjoyable. Really good. That's the consensus that I've seen. I don't know how accurate that is, but
I kind of found 3 to probably be the weakest one, pretty much.
Yeah, I would say I find 3 to be with all 4, I'd say 4 is the weakest, followed by 3, 2, then 1.
Yeah, I mean, 3, I would say it's like there's kind of some things in 3 that just kind of make me go, okay, hold on a second. Like, there's a point where I'm not gonna spoil it. Yeah, but there's plot armor in these sequels. Like, I mean, the first movie there's points where John Wick has plot armor that's a bit like, oh, okay, but the sequels it does kind of get a little out of control, especially when you get to 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're just like, okay, come on, dude.
Yeah.
I know you're badass and we love you, but come on.
Also, slight derail in topic, but Ultraman Rising releases tomorrow.
Oh yeah, it does. I'm either gonna watch it while I'm on my break at work or right before I go to work. We'll see. I know Titan Goji saw it last night, so that was fun for him. He said it was pretty good, so it'll be interesting to see what I think of it. But yeah, so I'm thinking probably I will end off the stream now. And again, it's just because I know I have work earlier than usual tomorrow.
If I may say one thing about the video before we end.
No, you get nothing. Yeah, just kidding. Go.
The one thing that I did not really like about the video is how he kept devaluing a lot of the stuff that he said that he really liked, or that I would assume he liked based off of it, and I don't know. It just that sentiment doesn't feel well with me.
It's like how can you even say that you're a fan of this stuff, but you say this shit? Like how? These two things cannot coexist.
Yeah, no.
This universe, no matter how vast, will never allow those two perspectives to coexist.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
But
All Cybertron reference. Wink, wink.
as always, we will do our patented shilling. As always, so we will have the world of Minecraft go first.
All right. Alrighty. So, thank you for having me on, Zim. I will definitely be rewatching the stream on my own time, or the video itself if I want to suffer. But yeah, check out the Gamera movies and the John Wick movies if you haven't for either of them. There are really good ones. John Wick I've heard was pretty good. Gamera is consistently well done, at least ironically enjoyable at worst, with one exception. But yeah, and if you're going to G-Fest, I will definitely be seeing you there, hopefully. So yeah, follow me on Instagram at MinecraftWorld1954, and Kara at MinecraftWorld1954. Kara is a very recent art sharing platform that is against the use of generative AI. So, and on both platforms, I will post artworks and concepts for my Greek mythology-inspired kaiju story that I've been working on. As well as that, follow me on my YouTube channel, where I post kaiju and versus content with occasional exceptions, and look out for a video essay about Project Nemesis, hopefully by G-Fest, like after G-Fest in July, as well as some other videos that I'm very, very excited about. Yeah, take care, guys. Peace.
Bye.
Peace.
Alright, guys. You can find me on most platforms like Twitter, Kara, Blue Sky as Vic Monstrous or Vic's Monstrosities. I have commissions open for kaiju and character design illustrations, so check me out if you want to see some of my stuff.
Okay, so this has been your guest, the Sea Monster here. Hopefully I will get back into the Sea Monster live streaming sort of thing pretty soon. You know, as soon as I get everything, all things in order, you know, outside of the interweb. But feel free to follow me here on YouTube or on Twitter, which my account is under the username of @KC_I. It's all lowercase. Or you could just pull up KCI parentheses Sea Monster. And and I highly recommend you check out that Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah video I did. It's really hearing nothing but good things from y'all and from the people who watched it so far, and I think y'all will like it too. But feel free to follow me, and I will be sure to let everyone know what I have coming up next. Hopefully soon.
Awesome, and you know where to find me, Zimzilla99 almost everywhere. You just got to underscore with the OG in front of it for Twitter, number 7775 on Discord, YT_ on PlayStation, but Zimzilla99 everywhere else, DeviantArt, Xbox. Find me where you want to find me. Chat up, join the Discord, links in the description as well as in the chat if you haven't. Join the Patreon if you haven't. It just helps me do a bit of housekeeping around here. Definitely give good luck to Black Rooney because he's actually deploying around the same time as G-Fest is. Ironically enough, I forget the branch. But back when G-Fest was at the Crown Plaza, there was something military related. I think it was with airmen specifically. Like they had something going on around the same time, like a little right before G-Fest started or right during G-Fest. So you'd see them walking around being like, what's going on with all these Godzilla folks? But yeah, you guys all have a great rest of your days, and just chill, have fun, and stay tuned for the next couple of streams that are going to be coming up, especially the Godzilla pitch one on the 27th and the super long man that's going to come out on July 7th when I leave for G-Fest. So I'm Zimzilla. I will see you guys next time, and as we like to say here on the channel,
Semper Fi, motherfucker.